Chapter 301, The Doppelganger Exposed, the Hippogriff, and the Winged Beast. Leaving the divination classroom, Harry remained silent, lost in thought. Others might have doubts, but he had encountered Professor Trelawney's unknown the night he ran away from home. Initially, he could have convinced himself it was just a coincidence, but now he couldn't help but worry. Aaron's complexion was not very good. He did not receive a death notice, but the prophecy about him symbolized the thing he disliked the most: trouble. Although this future might be a few years away, it would come eventually, and he was certain the accuracy of this prediction was very high. "Are you saying the ominous has something to do with Sirius Black?" Ron asked. "It must be related," Aaron said with certainty. "Although I don't want to say it, Sirius Black is the only one who can be confirmed. To be honest, I don't think divination can stand up to scrutiny," Hermione said angrily. "Arithmetic divination is much more interesting." "The reason you say that is because the textbook on arithmetic and divination is easier to use than picking through the fog to see the future," Aaron said playfully. "Arithmetic divination interprets people's fate and character through numbers to predict the future. Compared with simple numbers, the graphics of tea leaves are much more abstract, and the crystal ball divination to be learned in the future doesn't even have graphics. It all depends on one's talent." Hermione rolled her eyes. "Professor Vector's occult science is based on a series of rules and rigorous mathematical operations, and there are traces to follow." Aaron shrugged. The learning methods of divination and arithmetic divination seemed somewhat opposite. Hermione obviously preferred the one that could give full play to her talent. "Wait, isn't divination class and arithmetic divination at the same time?" Ron looked at Hermione suspiciously. "How did you have two classes at the same time?" "Don't be stupid. No one can take two classes at the same time," Hermione said without thinking, but her face became weird as soon as she finished speaking. She managed to handle several elective courses through the time turner, but Aaron didn't use this prop. Yet he also appeared in the arithmetic and divination classroom this morning. Oops, is the thought body going to be exposed? Seeing Hermione's puzzled gaze, Aaron immediately realized what she was thinking. Ahem. Well, Gryffindor's next class is Transfiguration, so don't keep Professor McGonagall waiting. Wait! Hermione stopped Aaron immediately and then looked at Harry and Ron. Go first. I have something to talk to him about. The two looked at each other and left quickly. Only then did Hermione ask meaningfully, "Should you explain it to me?" "Explain what?" "Ask knowingly." Hermione snorted softly. "You didn't use the time turner, so how did you appear in two classrooms at the same time?" "Maybe I used it?" Aaron put on a smiling face, trying to brush it off. "Is it?" Hermione approached slowly, her large, playful, serious, and even slightly teasing eyes like a ferocious fox staring at a weak, poor, and ignorant little white rabbit. She pointed to the time turner on her neck and said meaningfully, "I didn't see your watch." "Perhaps." "Don't tell me you lost it." Hermione crossed her arms and interrupted. "It's a magic item related to time. If you lost it, you wouldn't be so calm." A look of helplessness flashed in Aaron's eyes. He smiled wryly and shook his head. "I'm careless. I really didn't expect that you would sign up for 5 elective courses like me, and I didn't even expect that Professor McGonagall would apply for a time turner for you." Hermione smiled immediately. "Can you tell me? How did you appear in 2 classrooms at the same time?" "No, it's my secret. Also, you can't tell anyone." "Got it. I promise I won't tell." Hermione smiled. "How many people know your secret?" "There are several, but you are the only one who figured it out on your own." Aaron sighed helplessly. "You're the only one who discovered it on your own," he said sternly. In this world, only she knew about his thought-body avatar. Not even Dumbledore or his family were aware of it. Hearing this, Hermione smiled proudly. "I still have a sense of accomplishment," she said. "Even if you don't tell me, there are many answers in books, and I will figure it out myself." "Forget it. It's not unacceptable for the thought body to be discovered, but his ability must not be exposed." After lunch, it was time for the Care of Magical Creatures class. Aaron took Abe outside the castle, breathing in the fresh air after the rain. Gryffindors and Slytherins, who had signed up for the elective, gathered in front of Hagrid's hut, each holding a peculiar book, the Monster Book of Monsters. All right, come closer, and please don't talk, Hagrid, wearing a moleskin coat, said excitedly to the more than 20 students surrounding him. I'll let you feast your eyes today. Follow me. Hagrid led the students to the edge of the forbidden forest, where a stone fence formed a modest enclosure. Students, stand in a group and turn your books to page 40. But how do you open this book? Draco asked lazily. His book, though a collector's edition, was no different from the regular ones and would still bite if opened improperly. Just stroke it. Aaron said, casually caressing Abe's back. Like this. Very good, Gaius, Hagrid said excitedly, looking at Abe. It's like stroking a dragon. No, a cat. He walked up to Aaron, wanting to try it himself, but as soon as he reached out, Abe bared his fangs and let out a low growl. Professor Hagrid, I don't think my cat likes you very much, Aaron reminded him. Hagrid withdrew his hand with some regret, then took Hermione's textbook and stroked down the spine with his thumb. The book trembled, but didn't bite, lying quietly in Hagrid's hand like an ordinary book. Seeing this, the students stroked their textbooks before opening them with confidence, except for Neville Longbottom, who, despite the summer vacation, hadn't changed his forgetful ways. He opened the textbook without stroking it and was promptly bitten, leaving gaps in his wizard robes. These books are hilarious, Hermione said. Yeah, so funny, Draco sneered. It's a clever design. If this school continues like this, it will be a joke. It would be hilarious if my dad found out that Dumbledore asked Hagrid to teach. Draco, Aaron said helplessly, Hagrid knows enough about magical beasts to be a professor. He knows about magical animals, but that doesn't mean he can teach, Draco said confidently. Don't forget, this giant has no teaching experience. Shut up, Malfoy, Harry couldn't help but say. Be careful, Potter. There's a Dementor behind you. Draco teased. Potter, I know you have a good relationship with Rubus Hagrid, but there's nothing wrong with what I said. Harry opened his mouth, but found himself speechless. No one wanted Hagrid's first class to be a success more than he did, but even he was worried about potential teaching accidents. After all, most people wouldn't dare to keep such fierce magical animals as pets. At that moment, a dozen animals appeared not far away. They had the body, hind legs, and tail of a horse, and the head, front paws, and wings of an eagle. Each wore a collar around its neck, and Hagrid led them slowly into the paddock on a chain. Hippogriffs, Aaron murmured in surprise. You know them? Hermione asked, with Harry and Ron looking at him curiously. I've read as many books as you, but it's also the first time I've seen this magical animal. Nothing is as amazing as your cat, Draco said. Abe immediately raised his proud dragon head and gave Draco a look of approval. In the circle of magical creatures at Hogwarts, the hippogriff is a well-deserved boss. In the past, Dumbledore's phoenix could barely stand on equal footing with it, but now, after its evolution, the hippogriff can definitely outmatch that bird. Since you know about the hippogriff, Ron asked hesitantly, is it dangerous? It depends, Aaron replied, smacking his lips. The hippogriff is the offspring of a male griffin and a female horse. It is particularly ferocious before it is tamed, but once tamed, it won't hurt you. So that means, Harry swallowed, we have to tame it next? Almost, Aaron confirmed. Is it dangerous? Hermione asked apprehensively, clearly uneasy about dealing with such a large magical animal. You should have confidence in Hagrid, Aaron said, relaxed. It's not dangerous to me. It's even easy. But for you, you'd better follow the steps. To put it bluntly, although the hippogriff is strange, it is just an animal. As long as you are strong enough, you don't need to worry about any rules. It will automatically submit. Strong enough? Draco touched his chin, showing a little eagerness to try. Don't think about it. Aaron patted him on the shoulder. You'd better do what Hagrid says. Hagrid led a blue-gray hippogriff into the paddock. Its body was larger than a horse, making everyone both curious and nervous. Isn't it beautiful? Hagrid cheered it up by feeding it a dead polecat. Everyone meet Buckbeak, the hippogriff. First of all, you have to understand that they are very proud and temperamental. Don't insult the hippogriff, or it might take your life. Now, who's going to say hello to it? Chapter 302, Buckbeak, the Bloodline Suppression of Fantastic Beasts. Everyone took a step back in unison, and some even squatted behind the stones, as if no one wanted to greet Buckbeak. After all, Hagrid had warned them, it might cost you your life. They were just a group of students, and their psychological resilience at this stage did not support them risking their lives. Aaron also chose to follow the crowd. He was confident he could tame Buckbeak, but he didn't want to show off. "Good job, Harry. Good job," Hagrid said with relief. He really didn't know what he would have done if no one had set an example in his first class. After realizing what was happening, Harry Potter glanced back and found that everyone had backed away, leaving him standing there alone. No wonder Hagrid had called on him. Harry groaned inwardly, but managed to climb over the fence of the paddock. "Now you have to show respect. It's polite. Walk up to it, bow to it, and wait to see if it returns the bow." Hagrid patiently explained the essentials of communicating with a hippogriff. "You can only touch it if it bows back. Otherwise, we'll talk about it later." Harry bent down nervously and bowed, but Buckbeak didn't return the gesture. Instead, it spread its wings and let out a haughty cry, making Harry's heart leap into his throat. "Back up, Harry! Back up!" Hagrid waved his arms worriedly, motioning for him to retreat gently. But Harry stepped on a branch after taking only a few steps back, and the snapping sound was so obvious that everyone's heart skipped a beat. However, Buckbeak was not displeased by this. Instead, it slightly bent its scaly front knee and slowly bowed its head in a gesture of respect. "Good job, Harry," Hagrid smiled excitedly, then took down a dead polecat and threw it to Buckbeak. Harry straightened up in relief, but before he could fully relax, Hagrid continued, "You can go up and pat it. Go ahead, don't be shy, take it easy, slowly." Harry walked up to Buckbeak nervously and carefully reached out to touch it. Buckbeak was more cooperative, like a docile pet. Witnessing Harry's success, the other students cheered and applauded. Draco's face was not very good-looking, and his two followers, Crabbe and Goyle, also looked a little disappointed. "It doesn't look too difficult," Draco said angrily. "Then try it," Ron teased. "You weren't any slower than us when you backed away just now." Draco gave Ron a hard look, but said nothing. "I think he'll let you ride him," Hagrid said, putting Harry on Buckbeak's back whether he wanted to or not. Hagrid patted Buckbeak on the hind legs, and it spread its 12-foot-long wings to fly high into the sky. Harry, still in shock, hugged its neck tightly, screaming in surprise. "It looks interesting," Aaron laughed. "You call this funny?" Hermione asked in disbelief. Harry must be freaking out by now. "Well, actually, there's no need to worry. Once a hippogriff accepts you, it won't throw you off its back casually. It will come back after a short flight. This is much more interesting than riding a broomstick." Sure enough, Buckbeak returned with Harry on its back in less than 2 minutes. When Harry dismounted, his face was a little pale, and he staggered slightly. "Nice job, Harry," Hagrid said loudly. "Who else wants to try?" With the first person to take the plunge, other students cautiously entered the paddock, bowing and saluting each hippogriff. However, they still did not dare to fly on the hippogriffs. "Aren't you going to try it?" Hermione asked, puzzled. She had just had friendly contact with a hippogriff and saw Aaron eating an apple on the stone fence. "I have Abe." Aaron raised one of Abe's paws. "Don't you think dragons are better than hippogriffs?" Abe nodded solemnly. In front of a true dragon, hippogriffs were nothing. "Hermione, is it different?" "You should try it," Hermione advised. "This is Hagrid's first lesson, after all." Hearing this, Aaron hesitated for a moment. "Okay, just to show necessary respect for the teacher." As he said that, he put Abe down. Aaron walked quickly towards a hippogriff. Without bowing or saluting, he sat directly on its back, as if mounting a tamed pony. The hippogriff didn't resist at all, nor did it show the slightest displeasure. It seemed to sense the presence of a harmless human, but one who could tear it apart in minutes. Aaron smiled at it, as if to say, "If you dare to make my master unhappy, I will make you unhappy." Hagrid looked confused. Aren't hippogriffs all proud? How could they be tamed so easily? Could it be that Aaron knew it before? But that's impossible. "Aaron, how did you do it?" Hagrid asked. "Maybe I've ridden a dragon before," Aaron replied with a hint of mischief. Hagrid turned to look at Abe and suddenly realized. There is a hierarchy among magical creatures. A dragon's presence would naturally command respect, and the hippogriff had to cooperate obediently. At this moment, Draco also approached Buckbeak. He bowed, saluted, and stroked its beak. "I'll just say it's nothing difficult," Draco said proudly. It's not dangerous at all. If Harry Potter can tame you, there's no reason I can't. As soon as the words left his mouth, Buckbeak roared angrily and slashed at Draco with its sharp front claws. Draco fell to the ground, screaming in pain, his arm red with blood. Hagrid immediately stepped in front of Buckbeak to prevent further attacks. It's going to kill me, Draco said tearfully. I'm going to make it pay. Don't just stand there. Take him to the school hospital quickly, Aaron urged. Hagrid snapped out of his daze, picked up Draco, and rushed up the hill towards the castle. The others quickly followed, not daring to stay with the hippogriffs without Hagrid. When they arrived at the castle, Hagrid left the others in the foyer and took Draco to the school hospital himself. Aaron hesitated for a moment, sighed, and followed them. What are you doing here? Hagrid asked, looking tired. This is a doctor's job. Do you think I want to be here? Aaron rolled his eyes. Abe can help him heal. Hagrid glanced at Abe, who was dozing in Aaron's arms, and asked with some doubt, It can heal? Although it's not as good as a phoenix's tears, the effect is not much worse, Aaron explained. Draco, struggling to stop moaning, said, Then let it be. No, Aaron interrupted. Do you want Abe to expose his identity in full view? Hearing this, Draco closed his eyes in pain. A few minutes later, Hagrid placed him on a white hospital bed. Wait a minute. Miss Pomfrey will be here soon. Is it okay now? Draco asked hopefully. Aaron nodded and placed Abe in front of Draco. It's up to you. Abe glanced at Draco's arm with some distaste, then began the treatment. A white magic circle emerged on Draco's right arm, and the long, deep wound slowly healed under the white light. The bleeding also began to slow down. It's amazing, Hagrid exclaimed excitedly. I've never heard of dragons having this ability. That's because you are ignorant, Aaron shrugged, then took Abe aside. Huh? No. Draco blinked in confusion. It's not over yet. I will only guarantee that your arm will be fine. Leave the rest to Miss Pomfrey, Aaron said lightly. You were injured and bleeding in full view. If the doctor finds that you are perfectly fine, what would she think? And no matter what Miss Pomfrey arranges, you have to pretend to be sick for a few more days so that no one will suspect anything. Draco. Then let Abe deal with the rest quietly for me afterward. I will cover all the food expenses for this year, Draco offered. Abe's eyes lit up, as if it saw a shortcut to stock up. It looked at Aaron expectantly, hoping to see its master nod. However, Aaron refused bluntly. No, this is a lesson for you. Who told you to provoke a magical animal for no reason, especially after Hagrid made it clear that you should not insult the hippogriff? Draco, don't you think it's great to question the teacher in class? Draco was speechless. He had only wanted to prove that he was no worse than Harry Potter, but he had gotten carried away. At that moment, Madame Pomfrey hurried over. She carefully examined Draco's injuries, and her expression softened slightly. Miss Pomfrey, is Malfoy all right? Someone asked. It's not too serious, she replied. I've given him some medicine and bandaged the wound. He will recover after a period of rest, but he must not move his right hand until the injury is fully healed. Thank goodness, someone murmured. You're lucky, Draco said angrily. You and I can ignore it, but that bird must pay the price. Hagrid's heart sank, and he said weakly, Buckbeak is innocent. Innocent? Look at my arm, Draco retorted angrily. I will definitely tell my father. There's no need to tell your father about this, Aaron interjected, frowning slightly. If Lucius Malfoy found out, he would certainly exploit the situation. It doesn't matter what I say. If I'm hurt, my father will definitely know. Even though he's no longer on the board of directors, nothing at Hogwarts can be hidden from him, Draco insisted. Aaron sighed, feeling helpless. Hearing this, Hagrid's face grew bitter. He sat by the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling in a daze, deeply worried about Buckbeak's fate. Chapter 303, The Privilege of the Wounded, Snape's Personal Enmity. Is Draco okay? Pansy Parkinson asked Aaron in the hallway, with the others waiting nervously for his answer. He should be fine after some recuperation. Miss Pomfrey is bandaging him. You can visit him later, Aaron replied. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Gryffindor students were even more relieved than the Slytherins, as the severity of Draco's injury would determine the extent of Hagrid's punishment. That's good, Pansy complained. He should be fired. It's all Malfoy's own fault, Dean Thomas said bluntly. That is indeed a large part of the reason, Aaron agreed. If Draco hadn't insulted Buckbeak, he wouldn't have been hurt, but Hagrid's first class was really interesting, though hippogriffs are quite dangerous for third-year students. He won't be expelled? Harry asked worriedly. The thought of Hagrid being expelled after his first class was unbearable. No, Aaron shook his head. Draco said he wouldn't trouble Hagrid, but Buckbeak might not be so lucky. Regardless of the reason, Buckbeak did hurt Draco Malfoy, and everyone saw it. Harry, Ron, and Hermione exchanged glances, feeling particularly displeased with this outcome. Buckbeak was even more innocent than Hagrid. Malfoy was to blame for everything, but the blame fell on the hippogriff. There was nothing they could do about it, except hope that the punishment wouldn't be too severe. A few days later, Draco showed up in potions class. His right arm was wrapped in a bandage and hung from a strap. It looked bad, but he was actually better. Professor Snape asked everyone to make a shrinking potion, which could make the drinker shrink or change into a younger form. Draco took full advantage of his status as a wounded person to seek help from Professor Snape during class. Snape, in turn, arranged for Harry Potter and Ron Weasley, whom he disliked the most, to assist Draco. Ron cut the daisy roots for him, and Harry peeled the figs. Seeing the aggrieved but helpless faces of his two rivals, Draco felt a sense of relief. After preparing a bottle of green potion, Aaron shook his head in exasperation at the scene. "Do you have to be so petty?" Draco raised his arm dramatically and smiled triumphantly. "I'm a wounded person. You can't expect me to cut these materials with one hand." "Crabbe and Goyle would be happy to help you," Aaron suggested. "They don't have Potter and Weasley at their disposal," Draco replied with a teasing smile. "Besides, this was arranged by Professor Snape. If it weren't for you, I'd have Granger slice up the caterpillar for me." "Orange!" Professor Snape suddenly roared. In front of him stood a trembling Neville Longbottom. It was no wonder his shrinking potion had failed. "Gaius, tell this Elmhead what he did wrong," Snape demanded. It should be the addition of too much mouse spleen and leech juice," Aaron responded. "And the consequences?" Snape pressed. "If you want to commit suicide, you can drink it and try," Aaron replied dryly. "Understood," Professor Snape said sternly. "I asked you to prepare a shrinking potion, not a poison. We're going to give your toad a few drops of this potion before the end of this lesson, which may inspire you to make it work." Neville shivered, tears welling in his eyes. After Snape walked away, he turned to Hermione for help, choking back his panic. Aaron sighed, then swapped his potion with Neville's. "Be more serious next time." Thanks, but," Neville stammered. "Come on, if you don't change your potion, you will probably poison yourself," Aaron said. Hearing this, Neville burst into tears of gratitude and accepted the shrinking potion with teary eyes. "Actually, I could have helped him," Hermione said, a bit unconvinced. Yes, I don't doubt your ability," Aaron replied meaningfully. "But aren't you tired? Do you realize how many classes you have today?" Hermione opened her mouth to respond, but then lowered her head, realizing the truth in Aaron's words. Hermione shook her D helplessly. The time turner was indeed very useful, but it couldn't relieve fatigue. Her study load was much greater than that of others, and it was a lie to say she wasn't tired. "If I were you, I would take the time to sleep for a while. It's a miracle that you've persisted for half a semester," Aaron suggested. "Forget it. This is potions class," Hermione replied. "I recommend trying it in transfiguration class. Professor McGonagall might understand," Aaron said. "That's even worse," Hermione smiled wryly. "I can't let her down." "She won't be disappointed. She'll only feel that it's extenuating," Aaron reassured her. Hearing this, Hermione gave him a blank look. She could still persist now, but she knew she would feel powerless after a long time. "Wait, why aren't you tired?" Hermione asked suspiciously. She could see Aaron when she was taking 2 classes at the same time, but he looked radiant and didn't seem tired at all. You'll find out later," Aaron said evasively. "Fine," Hermione conceded. At this moment, Seamus Finnegan took out a copy of the Daily Prophet and quietly placed it in front of Harry Potter. "Someone has discovered Sirius Black," he whispered. "Where is it?" Harry and Ron asked immediately. They both felt that the unknown Professor Trelawney had mentioned had a lot to do with Sirius Black, so they were particularly concerned about his news. "Dufftown, not far from here. The Muggles found out and called the hotline, thinking he was just an ordinary criminal, Seamus explained. He came looking for you, Potter, Draco said playfully. You can try to catch him alone. This is a great opportunity for revenge. It's a little risky, but if I were you, I wouldn't let the Dementors take him. What are you talking about, Malfoy? Harry frowned. Don't you know, Potter? Malfoy sneered. You don't know? I almost forgot. You grew up in the Muggle world. You can be forgiven for not knowing, but the Ministry of Magic didn't tell you about it. Your parents. Cough, cough, Aaron interrupted Draco with a cough. Do you know anything too? Harry asked, looking at Aaron. What does Sirius have to do with my parents? Don't get me wrong, Aaron said, spreading his hands. I don't know anything. There are many things in the magical world, and Sirius is just beyond my understanding. Malfoy, Harry was about to ask him when Snape's voice cut through the air. It's almost time. Now let's test Longbottom's potion, Snape announced, striding up to Neville. Both Gryffindor and Slytherin students spontaneously surrounded him. Let's see what Longbottom's toad will turn into. If his shrinking potion succeeds, it will turn into a tadpole. But if it fails, his toad will be poisoned to death, Snape said, scooping up a spoonful of the potion. He looked at the bright and dazzling green liquid in the spoon and couldn't help frowning slightly. He glanced at Aaron briefly before pouring the potion down the throat of Neville's toad, Trevor. Puff! The toad turned into a tadpole and writhed in Snape's hand. The Gryffindor students cheered, as it meant that Neville's shrinking potion was successfully prepared. With a dark face, Snape took out a small bottle, dripped a few drops of liquid on the tadpole, and it turned back into a toad. Class is over, Snape said curtly. Gaius, stay. After everyone else left the classroom, Snape looked at Aaron helplessly. You didn't like meddling in your own business before. Professor, what do you mean? Aaron asked, feigning innocence. Humph. Do you dare to say that you didn't help Longbottom? Snape challenged. Maybe it wasn't me? Aaron suggested. Gaius, I'm the potions professor, and I know the level of each of you very well, Snape said, placing Neville's shrinking potion in front of Aaron. Look carefully. You can find the problem. Aaron raised his eyebrows. He didn't think he would make a mistake on such a difficult potion. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it, Aaron commented, but a look of embarrassment appeared on his face just after he finished speaking. It's careless. Except for you and me in the classroom, it seems that no one can make the perfect shrinking potion, Snape said meaningfully. It's fine if you cheat, but you're still so above board. Do you think the teacher is a fool? Copying homework and names together? Really? Snape's voice dripped with sarcasm. I just didn't want to see Longbottom crying. It's too pitiful, Aaron replied, trying to sound nonchalant. Is that so? Snape snorted coldly. I'm not going to make an example of you this time. Thank you, Professor, Aaron said, relieved. I'm not finished yet, Snape added sharply. I can let it go this time, but you have to do me a favor. Aaron rolled his eyes in frustration, regretting his decision to help Neville. What do you need, Professor? There's a Defense Against the Dark Arts class this afternoon. You know that, right? Isn't that a Gryffindor class? Aaron asked, puzzled. Yes, and it's also R.J. Lupin's first class. I want you to attend and outperform all the Gryffindors, especially Harry Potter. That's not appropriate, Aaron refused with a forced smile. He understood Snape's intention to cause trouble, and while he was confident in his abilities, it felt wrong to disrupt Lupin's first class. There's nothing inappropriate about it. Lupin and I are old acquaintances, Snape said with a hint of malice. Professor, do you have any personal grievances with Professor Lupin? Aaron asked cautiously. Snape nodded after a moment of silence. I didn't like him when we were at Hogwarts. That shouldn't involve me, Aaron said, feeling exasperated. He realized that Snape would have made this request regardless of whether he had helped Neville or not. Don't worry, I have your back, Snape assured him. It's not about needing support. I have principles, Aaron insisted. Dumbledore, Snape said suddenly. Principal Dumbledore seems to know about Professor Trelawney's prophecy concerning you. He has been wanting to speak with you alone, but I, as the head of Slytherin, have managed to delay it. Don't bring the headmaster into this, Aaron interrupted, raising a hand solemnly. You are my most respected teacher. Your concerns are my concerns, and I will help you. Don't force it, Snape warned. It's not forced at all, Aaron replied, maintaining a calm exterior while cursing inwardly. This was a blatant threat, but he had to admit it was effective. He would rather offend the new professor than deal with Dumbledore. The old headmaster was far more formidable than Gandalf. Chapter 304, Practical Class, Master of Metamorphosis? Aaron ate his lunch absent-mindedly, not even noticing how many people were sitting beside him. What did Professor Snape tell you? Draco asked curiously. You'd probably be very excited if you knew, Aaron replied with a wry smile. By the way, what's the relationship between Sirius Black and Harry Potter's parents? Huh? Draco looked a little surprised. You really don't know? Should I? Aaron asked back. Mr. Lucius may often share some current events in the wizarding world with you, but my parents are often away. That's it, Draco suddenly realized. He looked around cautiously, and after confirming that there was no one else, he lowered his voice. The reason I know is because my mother is Sirius Black's cousin. When he escaped from Azkaban, my mother was very shocked, and only then did I learn what Sirius did. Killed 13 muggles, everyone knows that, Aaron said impatiently. That's beside the point, Draco said gravely. Harry Potter's parents were killed by Voldemort because Sirius Black gave away their location. Aaron's pupils narrowed. That means Sirius Black indirectly killed Harry's parents. It can be said that, Draco shrugged. Now that Sirius Black has come out of Azkaban and appeared near Hogwarts, the target is obviously Harry Potter. Hearing this, Aaron frowned. He felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't pinpoint it. Draco, you can't tell Harry Potter about this, Aaron said, looking at him seriously. Why? Because if he knew the truth, he might try his best to get revenge on Sirius. No way, Draco smiled disapprovingly. Is he that stupid? Sirius is much more powerful than him. Seeking revenge on him is definitely asking for death, and Hogwarts is guarded by Dementors. He can't even get out of the castle. He's just that stupid, if you tell him to find Voldemort. Don't say that name, Draco hesitated. All right, if you ask him to find a mysterious person, he may not dare, but Sirius is different. If he knew the truth, he would definitely risk everything to fight Sirius. Even using himself as bait is not out of the question. Gollum, Draco couldn't help swallowing, feeling a little scared. He had been provocative in potions class before because he felt that Harry Potter was afraid, but if Harry really went to seek revenge from Sirius, he would have to bear certain responsibilities. At least the condemnation from his conscience would be unbearable. I know, I promise not to tell him. I know you don't like seeing him, but this is more serious. I know the seriousness, and I won't take his life as a joke. Aaron nodded, satisfied with Draco's attitude. He turned his gaze to Crabbe and Goyle next to Draco and asked with a smile, What about you? Can you guarantee it? The two looked at each other and nodded in unison. Wait, Draco suddenly thought of something. We don't need to say anything, but what if he finds out through other means? Just have a clear conscience. Why bother so much? Aaron said indifferently. It's good that they can control their own mouths, but they can't stop others from trying to kill themselves. The sky in the afternoon seemed a little gloomy. With a heavy heart, Aaron entered the office of the potions professor with the Defense Against the Dark Arts textbook. You're on time, Snape said with satisfaction. Professor, I still hope you can think carefully about it. After all, we are colleagues. Why can't we sit down and talk about any misunderstandings? Aaron, you are still too young, Snape patted him on the shoulder and said earnestly. In the future, you will find that some things are worth remembering forever, and I believe Lupin thinks so too. The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched slightly. If it wasn't because he wanted to use Snape to block Dumbledore's pressure, he would never have done such a thing that harmed others and benefited himself. Follow me. Snape led the way vigorously, but he didn't go to the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. Mem, where are we going? Faculty lounge, Snape said inscrutably. He just applied to the headmaster yesterday. The two arrived at the spacious room 15 minutes early. Snape moved a chair and sat down. Put away your textbooks. We have to act naturally. Aaron chuckled and tossed the Defense Against the Dark Arts textbook to Abe, who skillfully stuffed it into his pocket. See that cupboard? Snape pointed to a wardrobe at the back of the room. There's a boggart in there. Lupin will probably use it for his practical lessons. Really? Aaron's interest piqued. It seems this defense against the dark arts professor is quite good. Humph. Snape snorted, unconvinced. It's just grandstanding. If I were the professor of defense against the dark arts, I would definitely not waste the class like this. Do you know what a boggart is? It's mentioned in the book that some people say it is the most powerful transfiguration master. That's true. It becomes your worst fear, so you'd better be prepared. Aaron raised his eyebrows, silently contemplating his fears. Surprisingly, he couldn't think of anything. Voldemort? No, he had defeated Voldemort several times. His parents? No, he had never been afraid of them. A full schedule? That wasn't right either. He wasn't satisfied with it, but he wouldn't refuse it due to its importance for future development. I'm really curious. Your curiosity will be satisfied soon, Snape said solemnly. Don't let me down, or Dumbledore. Professor, since when did you start threatening people? Aaron said, curling his lips in exasperation. Also, I don't like dealing with the headmaster, not because I'm afraid, but because I feel I will suffer. This feeling is very real, but what I didn't expect is that now you actually make me feel this way. Snape's face twitched slightly. He felt a bit guilty and avoided looking at Aaron, but quickly regained his composure. Sometimes feelings can be deceiving. At that moment, the door of the staff lounge opened suddenly, and the third-year Gryffindors entered in single file. Professor Snape shifted into a more comfortable but casual sitting position, though the sarcasm in his eyes was barely concealed. Professor Lupin finally entered the faculty lounge. He was not surprised to see Snape and calmly closed the door behind him. Lupin, Snape stood up with a sneer. This is your first class. Don't mind me watching. Of course, I don't mind. Just watch if you want, Lupin said indifferently. My defense against the dark arts class is quite exciting. Lupin emphasized my defense against the dark arts, as if he knew it was a position Snape had applied for many times but failed to win. I hope to see you again at this time next year, Snape replied, not to be outdone. The professorship of defense against the dark arts seemed to be cursed, with professors leaving for various reasons after less than a year. Swords and swords, Aaron thought to himself. The grievances between Snape and Lupin seemed deeper than he had imagined. Their few sentences, though devoid of dirty words, were full of provocations and curses. I don't need you to worry about that. Lupin turned to the Gryffindors and led them to the old wardrobe. Sensing someone approaching, the closet suddenly shook, scaring the students in the front row back. Don't worry, there's a boggart inside, Professor Lupin said in a gentle tone, but the students still didn't feel very safe. They remembered how confident Lockhart had been when he released those elves last year, and the result had been a disaster. Can anyone tell me what a boggart looks like? No one knows, Hermione spoke up. Boggarts can transform. Whatever people fear most, they will change into that, so they are. That's horrible, Professor Lupin continued. That's right, 5 points for Gryffindor. Boggarts love dark, enclosed spaces. Wardrobes, cupboards, and even under beds are all hiding places for them. Their ability is quite incredible. If you can't deal with them, they can be very troublesome, and de-moving may not be useful. The boggart in the locker has no specific shape yet, but when I release it, it will become our worst fear. However, we have a huge advantage that can catch it off guard. Harry, do you know what this advantage is? Harry froze for a moment, not understanding why Professor Lupin asked him to answer the question. But he could barely guess the answer, and said with some uncertainty, because there are so many of us, it doesn't know what to turn into. That's right, 5 points for Gryffindor. Lupin raised his eyebrows at Snape and continued, This is one of the ways to deal with boggarts. Go together because it can't deal with 2 people at the same time. Cut! Snape curled his lips in disdain. What's the matter, Professor? Aaron asked puzzledly. Is there something wrong with what Professor Lupin said? No problem, but there are too many extra points. If it were me, 1 point would be enough. Puff! Aaron pursed his lips, trying to hold back the urge to laugh as much as possible. 1 point? That is really an extreme luxury. In his impression, Professor Snape never gave Harry Potter any points. Instead, he kept finding fault with him, deducting points in various ways. If it weren't for Hermione Granger earning back the marks in other classes, Gryffindor's scores at the end of each semester would be absolutely dreadful. Chapter 305, The Broken Boggart. Walking with a boggart can make it useless, but fighting it off requires laughter. That means turning the boggart into something you find funny. A very simple spell can do it, but it takes a lot of willpower, Professor Lupin explained to the students gathered before him. Practice now, but don't use your wands yet. Repeat after me. Ridiculous. Ridiculous, the Gryffindor students echoed in unison. Louder, clearer. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Very good. This is the simple practice, Professor Lupin said. Next, I will guide you through the actual practice. Neville, please come here. Lupin, Snape interjected with a hint of mockery in his tone. Perhaps no one has reminded you, but I suggest you choose someone else. Longbottom can't handle anything complicated. Neville took a cautious half-step back, his face flushing with embarrassment. Already shy, Snape's pointed remark made him wish he could disappear. I believe he can do a great job, Professor Lupin countered, raising an eyebrow. Neville Longbottom is an excellent wizard. He just needs the right guidance. Don't be shy, Neville. Come on! Neville's body trembled as he stumbled towards Professor Lupin. Neville, what are you most afraid of? Professor Lupin asked gently. Professor Snape, Neville whispered, his voice barely audible. What? Sorry, I didn't hear you, Lupin said, leaning in closer. Neville swallowed hard and glanced nervously at Snape, almost on the verge of tears. He might have had the courage to say Snape's name if the professor wasn't present, but now he was too terrified. Oh, Professor Lupin said thoughtfully. I think I understand. Professor Snape, right? Many people are afraid of him. Neville, you live with your grandmother, don't you? Yes, and I don't want the boggart to turn into her either, Neville replied, his voice shaking. No, no, Lupin reassured him, shaking his head slightly. Think about how your grandmother dresses. Picture it clearly in your mind. She's carrying a red handbag. You don't need to say it out loud. Just visualize it, and we will see it, Lupin instructed. When I open the wardrobe, I want you to imagine Professor Snape in your grandmother's clothes. Hearing this, the Gryffindor students burst into laughter, and the boggart in the closet began to shake violently. This is a bit too much, Aaron muttered, understanding why Snape had been so antagonistic. If Snape represented Slytherin, then Lupin was clearly the representative of Gryffindor, mirroring the rivalry between Draco Malfoy and Harry Potter. Snape stood there expressionless, watching indifferently as if he had anticipated this and had no intention of stopping it. Professor Lupin motioned for the others to step back, leaving room for Neville to stand alone in front of the closet. Ready your wand, Professor Lupin instructed, drawing his own wand. 1, 2, 3. The closet door handle turned, and out came Professor Snape, wearing his usual black robe, looking menacing. Think quickly, Neville, think quickly, Lupin reminded him from behind. Seeing Professor Snape advancing towards him, Neville nervously pulled out his wand. Ridiculous, he stammered. Snape took a staggering step back, and his black robe transformed into a long green dress. He wore a hat with a stuffed vulture, a brown scarf, and carried a red handbag. Neville sighed in relief, knowing he had succeeded. The rest of the Gryffindors laughed heartily, with Lupin laughing the loudest. This is too much, Aaron said angrily, wanting to intervene, but Snape held him back firmly. Don't go, Snape ordered. Professor Snape, can you tolerate this? Aaron asked incredulously. Don't do anything meaningless. Longbottom will pay the price for his actions, Snape said ominously. The dark anger in his eyes made Aaron shiver, and he silently pitied Neville Longbottom. Now he was happy, but he would surely face consequences in potions class, the future. Wonderful, Neville, incredible, Lupin said with a laugh. Everyone, line up and come one by one. Everyone was eager to face the boggart and lined up spontaneously. Lupin even played a song to enhance the atmosphere. Everyone, think of your worst fear and make it ridiculous. Next, Ron. Ron stepped forward nervously. The boggart transformed into Professor Snape, who was wearing a grandmother's costume. As it flipped in midair, it turned into a huge spider the moment it landed. Ron's face turned green, and he drew his wand as he stepped back. Ridiculous, he shouted. There was an extra roller skate on each of the spider's 6 legs, causing it to lose control and lie on the ground, twitching continuously. Ha! Lupin laughed loudly. See, It's so exciting. It's really exciting. Next, the spider turned into a giant rattlesnake, and the female student standing opposite it looked a little panicked. Don't panic. Don't panic, Professor Lupin reminded carefully. Ridiculous, she said. The rattlesnake turned into a clown, rocking back and forth. The laughter in the classroom was continuous. A feast of transfiguration was clearly displayed in front of everyone's eyes. The blood-stained mummy tripped over its own bandages, the female ghost, emitting green light, turned into a mouse, and the severed hand was caught in a mousetrap. Snape stood by without saying a word, making no comment. It wasn't until it was Harry Potter's turn that he knocked down the chair beside him with his arm. And Aaron, who was dozing off, opened his eyes dazedly. Is class over? Aaron yawned. What's the end of class? Professor Snape said speechlessly. It's your turn. Aaron froze for a moment, turned his head, and saw Harry Potter eager to try. He couldn't help rolling his eyes. Professor Snape, are you… What? Don't let me down, or Dumbledore. I'll go, Aaron interrupted speechlessly. Can't I go? Professor Snape nodded in satisfaction, then looked at Lupin. Lupin, I don't think you mind my favorite student joining the team, do you? Mr. Gaius is more interested in this boggart and wants to try it out in advance. Professor Lupin froze for a moment, then looked at Aaron meaningfully. Really? Aaron. Fake, don't get me wrong. This is what he said, and it has nothing to do with me. Seeing that Aaron didn't answer, Snape quietly pushed him from behind. Aaron nodded reluctantly and squeezed out a far-fetched smile. Really? Lupin glanced at Snape behind him, seemed to understand something, and smiled. Okay, then wait behind Harry. There is still a chance before class ends. The smile on Aaron's face was even more forced because there were several Gryffindors behind Harry Potter, and they were looking at him with resentful eyes. Professor Snape forced me, Aaron comforted himself in his heart. I am innocent. Harry stepped forward, looking at the twitching severed hand in front of him with a little excitement, thinking about what he should change the thing he was most afraid of into. The severed hand turned into a Dementor in mid-air several times, with a long breathing sound coming from its mouth, and a bone-chilling chill hit the face. Harry seemed to be frightened, and his body became a little stiff. Aaron was hesitating whether to help, but Lupin quickly stood in front of Harry. The Dementor changed again, into a night scene, a full moon slowly emerging from the black clouds. Roar! Ab suddenly jumped in front of Aaron, growling at Professor Lupin vigilantly. Aaron looked at this scene in astonishment, then glanced at Professor Snape, who had pulled out his wand and looked ready to act at any moment. Gulp! Aaron swallowed, and a guess that made him feel absurd emerged in his mind. No wonder Ab said that Professor Lupin was a time bomb on the train to Hogwarts. If he guessed correctly, he could only admire Dumbledore. Anyone dares to go to the school to get it, you are really not afraid of. Teaching accidents, Professor Lupin exclaimed, casting a spell with a flourish. The full moon transformed into a deflated balloon, zipping around the faculty lounge. Profess, or Snape, with a swift motion of his wand, captured the shriveled balloon and locked it in a cabinet. Come on, Gaius, class will be over soon, Snape urged. Aaron shrugged and approached the cabinet. It shook violently before opening slightly, but nothing emerged. What are you doing? Snape asked, frowning. Think about your worst fear. I'm already thinking about it, Aaron replied anxiously. Memories of past experiences flashed through his mind, but few truly frightened him. 10 seconds later, the cabinet fully opened, and a refined man in a Slytherin-embroidered wizard robe stepped out. Tom Riddle, Harry murmured in disbelief. Hermione and Ron also took a step back in panic. It wasn't entirely surprising, as the Dark Lord was a common fear among wizards. Get out! Aaron commanded disdainfully. Who do you think I am? A mere defeated general dares to come out and frighten people. Riddle's smile froze, as if he had been momentarily paralyzed. After a moment, the boggart transformed again, this time into a dwarf wearing a crown, adorned with gold and silver, but with lifeless eyes. Can I change it? Aaron asked, clearly disgusted. I must have a fear somewhere in my heart, but don't use him to insult me, can you? Chapter 306, Fearless, Professor Lupin is a Werewolf. Soren Oakenshield jumped with anger, throwing the crown he was wearing to the ground with a heavy thud. He then continued to transform. This time, the figure that appeared before Aaron was a benevolent old man. Curiosity and puzzlement filled the eyes of everyone else, including Professor Lupin and Professor Snape. They could all sense the peaceful aura emanating from the old man. Unlike Dumbledore, he seemed trustworthy, exuding an air of pure goodness that made him appear harmless. Could he be a deceased elder from Aaron's family? Seeing him brought back some old memories. Aaron secretly rolled his eyes. Gandalf? Why not become Dumbledore? I'll count to 3, and you can change the number for me. As far as the responsibility imposed on me by this old bastard is concerned, if I can refrain from slapping him twice, it is my utmost benevolence. The corners of Gandalf's eyes twitched violently, as if sensing the strong malice from Aaron. He took a step back in panic. His body gradually faded as he retreated, transforming into a gray ball spinning at high speed. Roar! A sudden roar echoed, and the ball turned into a huge dragon, its cold vertical pupils filled with humanized mockery. The students' scalps tingled, and they trembled unconsciously with excitement. A few drops of cold sweat appeared on the foreheads of Lupin and Snape. What's wrong with you? Must you become the most destructive creature in the wizarding world? Fortunately, this is just a boggart. If it were a real dragon, the two of them would find it awkward to fight together. It is estimated that only Dumbledore would be able to subdue it. Aaron looked at the low imitation of Smaug in front of him and couldn't help raising his eyebrows. With a size of only 10 meters, the pressure it exerted was less than 1/10 of Smaug's. But that's understandable. Boggart's transformation ability has its limits. If it could imitate perfectly, it would be the strongest creature in the magical world. A white magic circle emerged on Aaron's right side, and he took out a black arrow from it. It was one of the arrows that had killed Smaug, which he had kept secretly, unknown to anyone. Aaron fixed his eyes on the wound on Smaug's left chest, sneering as he prepared to strike. He had been able to kill Smaug with the help of the god Bard. Now, although he had no helper, his opponent was just a false dragon, and he was confident he could handle it. Funny, funny, echoed twice. Professor Snape and Professor Lupin cast spells simultaneously. The boggart screamed, turned into blue smoke, and quickly retreated into the cabinet, avoiding Aaron's killing blow. Aaron had to stop halfway. Professor, are you still here? Aaron asked. You don't need it. This class is for you to deal with boggarts, not for you to overcome the fear in your heart, Professor Lupin said, still terrified. He didn't dare let Aaron continue, fearing that the creature's boggart transformed into, based on the fear in his heart, would become increasingly exaggerated, potentially causing a teaching accident. Professor Snape, Aaron looked at him eagerly, the meaning clear. I didn't embarrass you, did I? Snape's mouth twitched, and he nodded slowly. Gaius, that dragon just now, was it real? A student asked. How is it possible? Aaron replied seriously. It was a birthday present from my grandfather. He thought I was too timid, so he gave me a realistic toy model to practice courage. You weren't scared, were you? The Gryffindors looked at each other, thinking it was true. A dragon was much more exciting than those spiders, cobras, and severed hands. Snape and Lupin exchanged glances. The former remained silent while the latter stood up and coughed a few times. This is the end of today's lesson. Go to the back and get your books. Additionally, everyone's performance in this class was very good. The homework is due next Monday. Summarize boggarts in simple words. Word count, you can figure it out, but don't just gloss over it. The students left the staff room, buzzing with excitement and relief. The lounge was filled with talking and laughter. The students found the Defense Against the Dark Arts class both useful and interesting. Professor Lupin had earned unanimous approval from Gryffindor, especially when compared to Gilderoy Lockhart. He was considered a pretty good professor. Professor Lupin, it seems there was an accident in your class, Snape remarked with a triumphant smile. But it was still a complete success, Lupin replied calmly. He didn't think much of Snape's comment, considering that Snape's potions class had its own share of explosions. In comparison, his Defense Against the Dark Arts class was much safer. Stubborn, do you think Harry Potter can deal with Dementors? Snape pressed. That's why I stepped in just in time, Lupin explained. As for the Dementors, I'll teach him the Patronus charm. What a responsible and good teacher, Snape said sarcastically. Aaron, listening to this exchange, couldn't help but think that Snape had probably considered teaching Harry Potter the spell himself, but couldn't bring himself to do it. Now that Lupin was taking on the task, Snape might actually be relieved. "Gaius, Slytherin is not suitable for you," Lupin said suddenly. "If you want, I can discuss with Professor McGonagall about transferring you to Gryffindor House." "Lupin," Snape's face darkened instantly. "In front of the head of Slytherin, you are suggesting a third-year Slytherin transfer? Do you want to show some respect?" "I'm just suggesting it. If he doesn't want to, he can pretend I didn't say anything," Lupin added hastily. Snape gave him a cold look and then took Aaron away. "Professor," Aaron hesitated as they walked down the corridor. "What kind of person is Professor Lupin?" "You'd better stay away from him," Snape said meaningfully. "This is my advice to you." "A werewolf?" Aaron asked. Snape stopped and turned to look at Aaron. After a long silence, he asked, "How did you know? When did you know?" Aaron hugged Abe, his pet dragon. "When I was on the train, Abe told me there was a beast living in Professor Lupin's body. At first, I thought he was schizophrenic, but then the boggart turned into a full moon in front of him. Normal humans aren't afraid of the moon. Beasts living in bodies, afraid of the moon. I couldn't think of anything but werewolves." "Your observation is very keen," Snape said with a hint of relief. "I was particularly opposed to inviting a werewolf to be a professor, but I couldn't do anything once the headmaster agreed. However, there's no need to worry about the student's safety. I will deliver the wolfsbane potion to him before the full moon night." "I suddenly feel a bit sympathetic towards him," Aaron said thoughtfully. "Werewolves have a low status in human society. No wonder his clothes and suitcases are all tattered." "Better put away your sympathy," Snape warned solemnly. "He may be sensible as a human, but when he becomes a wolf, even his closest people could be torn to pieces. If you ever encounter a werewolf on a full moon night, the best thing to do is—" "Run?" Aaron suggested. "Running is a last resort. The most correct way is to kill him." "Ah, this." Aaron was a bit confused. He didn't think Snape was wrong, but the problem was that their current defense against the dark arts professor was a werewolf. It's one thing if you don't know each other, but it's somewhat awkward to kill your teacher. "Let's just hide in the dormitory on the night of the full moon," Aaron said. "Out of sight, out of mind. If we really can't hide, then we should incapacitate him. If all his limbs are snapped off, he won't be much of a threat." Hearing this, Snape raised his eyebrows. "If you can do it, I have no objection." "I can. It's really not difficult," Aaron said, pointing meaningfully at Abe in his arms. The dragon raised its head proudly. The corners of Snape's eyes twitched slightly, and he opened his mouth hesitantly. He had almost forgotten that Aaron had raised a dragon. While werewolves were indeed ferocious, they were no match for a dragon. Moreover, Aaron and his pet were practically inseparable. Their safety is absolutely guaranteed. "It seems that you don't need to worry about me," Snape said, walking forward on his own. Despite this, Aaron continued to follow him. "It's none of your business. Go back and rest," Snape snapped. Well, Professor, I have some questions." "Speak. Did Sirius Black really come to kill Harry Potter?" Snape frowned deeply. "Why are you asking that?" "It's nothing. I'm just curious. I always feel that something is off, but I can't pinpoint what." "Mind your own business," Snape said disdainfully. "Aside from killing Harry Potter, can you think of any other reason? Sirius went to great lengths to escape from prison and come to Hogwarts. He can't just be here to reminisce about the past, right?" Aaron was left speechless. "It makes sense," he admitted. "Anything else?" What if Dumbledore wants to find me?" "You are my student. As long as it's not too important, I'll handle it for you, or convey his message," Snape said seriously. Aaron felt relieved and then picked up his belongings, heading towards the Slytherin common room. Watching him walk away, Snape heaved a long sigh, changed direction, and walked towards the 8th floor of the castle. He ascended a spiral staircase and entered through an oak door. "Here you are, Severus," Dumbledore greeted, raising a teacup in his hand. "Would you like a cup of honey tea?" "No," Snape replied, walking to the principal's desk and sitting in the chair opposite Dumbledore with a blank expression. Dumbledore shrugged and set the teapot on the table. "What did the boggart become in front of him?" "It's more exaggerated than you think," Snape mused. Aaron doesn't seem to have anything particularly scary. The boggart transformed in front of him 4 times, but failed each time. What did it become? Dumbledore asked, intrigued. 3 completely different people, but all 3 were dismissed by him. The 4th was a dragon, but instead of being scared, he took up his weapon and actively attacked it. If Lupin and I hadn't intervened in time, the boggart would have been seriously injured, Snape explained patiently. Dumbledore was silent for a moment, reflecting on Snape's words. It seems he is much more optimistic and powerful than I thought. I am ashamed to have underestimated him. Chapter 307, The Perspective from the 5th Floor. Can't imitate handwriting? I don't understand, Headmaster, Snape asked sullenly. How could you be interested in such a thing? I just want to know more about the heirs of the Gaius family, Dumbledore replied, his eyes flashing with wisdom. He smiled and added, I believe you can also see that at Hogwarts he treats me, the headmaster, with a certain amount of vigilance. Hearing this, Snape was speechless. It was perfectly normal to be wary of someone who constantly tries to recruit others into a dubious cause. Principal, I hope this kind of thing won't happen again, Snape said firmly. Okay, Severus, Dumbledore reassured him. He trusts you and asked you to come forward this time, just in case. After the first Defense Against the Dark Arts class, word would get out that Lupin was practicing with a boggart. Aaron is a talented wizard, and with the family power behind him, if he wishes, he can certainly find a way to isolate the boggart's detection and hide his fears. Does it make sense? Snape asked angrily. It turns out that it doesn't make any sense. On the contrary, it is very meaningful, Dumbledore said seriously. You are also aware of Trelawney's prophecy. His future may surpass all of us. Once he goes astray? Enough, Headmaster, Snape interrupted, standing up from his chair. He's my student, and don't you think you're thinking too far ahead? His talent is very high, but it will take at least 10 years for him to truly grow up. Not so long, Dumbledore countered. He is already a magister, and is only halfway to becoming a full magister. He is likely to achieve this before the Chinese New Year. A 13-year-old magister. Do you know what that means? Snape froze for a moment, suppressing the shock in his heart, and slowly sat back down. If what Dumbledore said was true, it meant that Aaron would not need 10 years to grow up, just a few years. Before graduation, he would be nearly as powerful as his teachers. Now you understand that it will be a matter of time before Voldemort returns, and Aaron's power will play a vital role, Dumbledore continued. But you never considered whether he is willing or not, Snape said with some dissatisfaction. Probably unwilling, Dumbledore admitted with an awkward smile. But before Voldemort is fully resurrected, we still have enough time to change his mind. Severus, I know he's your favorite student, but we need a strong ally so badly. Once Voldemort makes a comeback, it will set off unprecedented turmoil. Relying solely on the Order of the Phoenix to deal with his power is really a bit of a stretch. Snape was silent for a moment, then took a sip from his cup of honey tea. What if he hasn't changed his mind? Then I can only regret it. Dumbledore sighed. I will not force anyone to do anything. I can assure you of that. Better so, Snape muttered. Meanwhile, in the Slytherin common room, Aaron suddenly shivered. The mind-body sitting opposite him, practicing the ultimate magic circle, also felt an inexplicable malice. Aaron and Miss Sai looked at each other and couldn't help touching their noses. There are always people who want to harm me, Aaron said. I also have this feeling, Miss Sai agreed. They were unaware of the conversation between Snape and Dumbledore. If they knew, they would definitely complain about the darkness of Hogwarts, but at the same time, they would be glad that they had fooled Dumbledore's eyes. Aaron wore a magic sealing ring to suppress half of his magic power when taking back the missing body. When using the missing body, he took off the ring and gave half of his power to it, perfectly hiding his true strength. Dumbledore thought he was standing on the 3rd floor, but Aaron was actually standing on the 5th floor. The first Defense Against the Dark Arts class was a complete success. Under Gryffindor's intentional or unintentional publicity, Professor Lupin became famous and gained more and more recognition. In the following period, Professor Lupin taught Eve, Rion how to deal with red caps, elf-like creatures. Compared to last year's Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, The diligent Lupin is clearly more respected by everyone, and no one cares that he wears patched clothes. However, some Slytherins had issues with Professor Lupin, especially after he humiliated the Slytherin head with a boggart in his first class. Neville Longbottom also paid the price for this incident, as he was relentlessly targeted by Professor Snape in Potions class, losing points and being criticized in various ways. On the 16th of October, Lavender Brown's prophecy was fulfilled when her rabbit was killed by a fox, which was exactly what she had feared most. At this point, Aaron had a clear understanding of Trelawney's divination abilities and finally made a choice among the 5 elective courses, deciding to give up arithmancy and divination. He found interpreting tea leaves to be tedious and the results vague. In contrast, he saw more value in palmistry and crystal ball reading. Professor Trelawney had high hopes for him, believing that he would eventually awaken the inner eye and become a true seer. On the eve of Halloween, most of the third-year students changed into casual clothes, preparing to leave for a weekend in Hogsmeade. Aaron left his belongings in the dormitory and walked out with Abe in his arms. Draco was waiting for him on the sofa in the common room, with Crabbe and Goyle standing on either side of him like 2 iron towers. "I really don't know what you do in the dormitory by yourself," Draco said, noticing the dark circles under Aaron's eyes. "Are you suffering from insomnia?" "No," Aaron yawned. "I've just been working on a big project recently, a very big project. I've put in a lot of energy and forgotten to sleep and eat." "Is it some special magic?" Draco asked with interest. "No, but once it's done, my life and study pressure at Hogwarts will be reduced by at least 50%, Aaron replied with a mysterious smile. "By the way, your arm should be healed. Why haven't you taken off the bandage?" "It's a tactic," Draco said proudly. "The first Quidditch match is Gryffindor versus Slytherin. If the Seeker is injured, we have a reason to switch opponents to delay the game, making Oliver Wood's strategy against Slytherin useless. Hufflepuff's captain, Cedric Diggory, is brilliant, so Flint decided to have Hufflepuff play against Gryffindor instead." "That's a bit underhanded," Aaron said with some disdain. "Then you should join the student team. Flint would immediately make you captain if you did," Draco suggested. Aaron coughed awkwardly. "It doesn't matter if the tactics are dirty or not, as long as you can win." "That's what we thought too," Draco laughed. Outside the castle, hundreds of students had gathered. Professor McGonagall patiently explained the rules, while Filch collected the students' permission forms, ensuring they were signed by parents or guardians before allowing them to leave. "Remember, it is an honor to go to Hogsmeade Village. Anyone who does not perform well in school will no longer enjoy this privilege," Professor McGonagall reminded them. "I'm sorry, Professor," Neville said hesitantly, holding up his right hand. "I seem to have lost my permission form." "Your grandmother sent it directly to me, Longbottom," Professor McGonagall said helplessly. "She seems to think that's safer." At this moment, Harry Potter approached Professor McGonagall with his permission form, but before he could speak, she interrupted him. "You can't go to the village without a signed consent form. That's the rule, Potter." "Follow me if you have signed the form, and don't follow if you haven't," Filch said curtly, leading the group away. Harry hurriedly tried to catch up. Professor McGonagall stopped Harry. "If you sign, then I can't sign it. Only a parent or guardian can. I am neither, so I cannot sign," she said firmly, looking at Harry sympathetically. "I'm sorry, Potter, but my decision will not change." Harry held the permission form, King particularly frustrated. "Stay here, Potter," Draco Malfoy sneered as he approached. "But it's also a good thing for you. At least you don't have to face those Dementors." "Draco," Aaron said, staring at him speechlessly. Draco shrugged resentfully and followed behind the team with Crabbe and Goyle. "I hate to say it, but Harry, he has a point," Aaron continued. "Don't forget, Sirius Black is still looking for you. You'd better not leave the castle until he's caught." "But, come on, think about Trelawney's ominous remarks," Aaron insisted. "That's not necessarily true," Hermione interjected angrily. "It's better to believe something than nothing," Aaron said seriously. "Safety comes first. He should stay in the castle." Harry hesitated for a moment, then nodded reluctantly. "We'll bring you lots of candies from Honeydukes," Ron comforted him. "You'll be able to see them at the dinner party, and we'll tell you about the fun places in Hogsmeade. Once Black is caught, you can go straight there." Harry sighed slightly, then picked up the unsigned permission form. "Even if Sirius is captured, I can't go. My guardian won't agree." "You can use an invisibility cloak," Ron suggested. "Let's talk about it later," Harry replied. "By the way, why didn't you imitate your uncle's handwriting and signature?" Aaron asked with some curiosity. "You are a Gryffindor, so this shouldn't be too much pressure for you." Hearing this, Harry's face lit up with realization. He had forgotten about that trick, but it was too late now. Professor McGonagall already knew that no one would sign for him. "Okay. It seems that you didn't think of it. If you're bored, you can go to Professor Lupin. I think he'll be happy to teach you the Patronus charm." Harry nodded. He had the same idea. Learning the Patronus charm would save him from worrying about Dementors, and Malfoy wouldn't be able to use them to taunt him anymore. Chapter 308. The Cursed Halloween Eve. Before night fell, wizards in their 3rd year and above returned to the castle from Hogsmeade. Ron and Hermione brought Harry a lot of candies, while George, Fred, and Percy brought him some fun props to comfort his fragile heart as much as possible. All the teachers and students of the school gathered in the auditorium, which was adorned with pumpkins, enjoying a sumptuous Halloween dinner and laughing at the ghost show. Harry occasionally glanced up at Professor Lupin at the staff table, his eyes full of worry. After a moment of hesitation, he patted Aaron on the back. Has Professor Snape been acting unusual recently?" Harry asked. "Why are you asking this?" Aaron frowned slightly. "Snape brought Professor Lupin a cup of potion today," Ron said in a low voice, "and Professor Lupin drank it." "So?" Aaron asked, puzzled. "So, they want to know if it's possible that Snape poisoned Professor Lupin," Hermione added, her expression somewhat uneasy. "You know that Professor Snape has always coveted the position of Defense Against the Dark Arts professor." Aaron nearly spat out his juice. "You guys really have wild imaginations," he said, looking at the three of them incredulously. "Professor Snape may be strict, but he's not insane. And do you think Professor Lupin would drink a potion from someone without knowing what it is?" Hearing this, Harry felt a bit embarrassed, but also relieved. Hermione and Ron's faces also relaxed a little. After dinner, the students of the 4 houses left the auditorium, preparing to go to bed. But before they could return to their common rooms, the prefects brought Dumbledore's order: "Assemble in the auditorium." "What happened?" Aaron asked Naylor, looking puzzled. "I don't know. Let's gather first. A few of us prefects have to make sure everyone gets back to the auditorium safely," Naylor replied. Aaron hugged Abe and followed Naylor, thinking that Halloween at Hogwarts must be cursed. 2 years ago, Quirrell released a troll. Last year, the basilisk attacked. This year, something else had happened. It was probably not a trivial matter. After all the students assembled, Professor Snape and Professor Flitwick closed all the doors of the auditorium, even the windows. "The teachers and I need to conduct a full search of the castle," Dumbledore announced. "For your own safety, you will spend the night here. The prefects will guard the entrance, and the male and female student union chairpersons will manage the situation. If anything happens, report to me immediately." With a wave of his wand, Dumbledore conjured hundreds of sleeping bags, neatly spread on the ground. After he left, the students began to discuss the situation. Aaron walked up to Harry, Ron, and Hermione. "Can someone tell me what happened?" "Sirius Black has sneaked into Hogwarts," Harry said anxiously. "He attacked the fat lady who guards the door of the Gryffindor common room. He must be here for me." "But how did he get in?" "There are hundreds of Dementors guarding the place," Aaron asked. "Maybe he used apparition," Ron guessed. "It's a kind of magic that can teleport you from one place to another in the blink of an eye." "Impossible," Hermione interjected. "Hogwarts has magical protections that prevent apparition." "That's strange. Are there any secret passages in Hogwarts?" Aaron asked. "That's impossible, Aaron," Hermione shook her head. "Filch knows all the secret passages, and the entrances to those passages are strictly guarded by Dementors." "Shut up and turn off the lights at once." "House," head boy Percy Weasley commanded loudly. "Now get into your sleeping bags and go to bed." The entire auditorium immediately fell silent. All the candles were extinguished, leaving only the enchanted ceiling to emit a soft starlight. Quite a few students whispered among themselves, while Percy and Filch patrolled the auditorium, scolding those who were not following the rules. The professors searched the castle separately, but found nothing. "He's really capable, don't you, the Thad? Ink?" Professor Snape asked Dumbledore, single-handedly entering Hogwarts Castle without anyone noticing. "Indeed, he is quite capable," Dumbledore replied. "How do you think he got in?" Snape inquired. "I've considered many possibilities, but none seem feasible." Snape paused before continuing. "You may recall that I expressed my concern when you appointed Professor Lupin before the new term. No teacher in the castle would help Sirius Black sneak in," Dumbledore interrupted, his tone firm and unwavering. Snape, sensing the warning, didn't pursue the topic further. "I believe the castle is safe, but I still think we should send the students back to their respective houses. What about Potter? Should we warn him?" "Perhaps, but let him sleep for now," Dumbledore decided. After listening to their conversation, Aaron slowly opened his eyes. Abe, his pet, poked its head out of the sleeping bag, but was quickly pushed back by a large hand. "There's an insider. Professor Lupin is very suspicious," Aaron thought to himself. He felt that Snape's suspicion wasn't entirely unfounded. It seemed impossible for a murderer to sneak into a Hogwarts guarded by Dementors without help from someone inside. The previous 2 Defense Against the Dark Arts professors had already shown that appearances could be deceiving. While Professor Lupin's current performance was commendable, no one knew his true intentions. However, none of this concerned Aaron. With his current peak Magister strength, even if Sirius and Lupin were up to something, they posed no threat to him. If they left him alone, fine. If not, he wouldn't hesitate to go to the Ministry of Magic for a reward. Order was restored at Hogwarts the next day, after a thorough search confirmed that Sirius Black had left. However, Sirius's intrusion had a lasting impact, becoming the main topic of conversation for the next few days. Harry Potter, his primary target, was placed under strict protection. Professors, prefects, and the student union president often accompanied him, fearing that Sirius Black might strike again. On Friday, the sky was overcast, and thunder rumbled intermittently. This cast a shadow over the Quidditch team, as their first match was scheduled for the next day, likely to be played in a violent storm. Draco was excited, feeling that the Slytherin team was favored by Merlin. Marcus and Cedric had just finalized the opponent change, and now the weather was worsening, making tomorrow's game a must-watch event. Draco was eager to see how Harry Potter would catch the golden snitch in a thunderstorm. When Defense Against the Dark Arts class began, it was raining heavily outside. Snape strode in, closing the windows with a wave of his wand. By the time he reached the podium, all the windows were shut, minimizing the impact of the storm on the classroom. "Turn your books to page 394, Professor Snape said expressionlessly. "Excuse me, sir, where is Professor Lupin?" Harry Potter ventured to ask. "It's not something you should worry about, Potter," Snape replied unhurriedly. "Your professor is currently in poor health and cannot teach." Harry felt that Snape was being dismissive and reluctantly flipped through his book. "Werewolves?" Aaron muttered as he read the title of the chapter. Unbelievable. Professor Snape is actually teaching students how to deal with the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor. If Lupin knew, he would probably be furious, but he couldn't blame Snape, and he had no reason to. Snape couldn't be entirely blamed, as his concern for the students' safety was evident. "That's right," Snape said, casting a deep look at Aaron. "In this lesson, we will learn how to deal with werewolves." "But Professor, we just learned about red caps, kappas, and grindylows," Hermione interjected, raising her hand. She seemed to have appeared in the classroom suddenly, without even taking out her book. "I'd say you should have learned to deal with them in your first year. Additionally, Miss Granger, I need to remind you that this class is mine, and it is necessary to teach you how to recognize werewolves. Now, who can tell me the difference between an animagus and a werewolf?" Hermione raised her hand high, but Snape ignored her and looked the other way. "Gaius, you answer it." Aaron thought to himself, "I don't seem to have raised my hand." An animagus has the ability to choose when to transform into an animal, maintaining their sanity and magical power. Werewolves, however, have no choice. They are no different from ordinary people most of the time, but on the night of the full moon, They uncontrollably become irrational and bloodthirsty beasts. At that time, they don't recognize even their closest relatives. Very well, 5 points to Slytherin. Now, is there any way to keep werewolves sane on a full moon night? Hermione raised her hand again, but Snape glanced at her disdainfully and continued. Gaius, you answer. Aaron's mouth twitched slightly, and he replied, the wolfsbane potion. If taken for a week before the full moon, it allows a werewolf to retain their sanity even after transforming. 5 more points to Slytherin. Now, who can tell me what to do when encountering a werewolf in the wild? Snape looked at Hermione's raised hand and turned his face away impatiently. Longbottom, you answer. Me? Neville stood up, looking aggrieved and sad. I should run. That's all you can do, Snape sneered. But it may be the only way for you if you can manage it. Miss Granger, I think you are tired of raising your hand, Snape said meaningfully. If your friend or close relative turns into a werewolf, what should you do? Chapter 309, Dementors Intrude, The Smashed Lightwheel 2000. I don't know. Hermione blushed. It was the first time she admitted ignorance in class, but she genuinely didn't know what to do. The thought of a friend or close relative turning into a werewolf was chilling. Perhaps Neville's approach was right. Escaping might be the best option in such a case. It seems the know-it-all doesn't know everything, Snape said sarcastically. Gaius, you answer? Aaron's mouth twitched slightly, and he forced a smile. Well, my personal idea is to disable the werewolf so that it poses no threat. You heard that. This is the standard answer. Professor, Hermione hesitated, we may not be able to beat werewolves. Then you need to think carefully about the gap between you and others, Snape said matter-of-factly. Submit a paper to me next Monday, 2 rolls of parchment, on werewolves, focusing on how to identify and kill them. But there's Quidditch tomorrow, Harry interjected. Today was Friday, and he had to work overtime for training. Tomorrow was Saturday, and he would officially participate in the competition, which meant he only had 1 day to do his homework. In addition to Snape's 2 rolls of parchment, there were other assignments. Unless he could clone himself, it was impossible to finish them all. Snape suddenly moved his face closer to Harry and said coldly, Then I suggest you take extra care, Mr. Potter. You still have to write articles whether you have an arm or a leg. Now turn the book to page 394. The werewolf is called wolf, made up of the 2 Anglo-Saxon words woe and wolf. After class, everyone left the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. Aaron said to Snape, who was packing up the equipment, Professor, you can be really boring sometimes, you know that? Oh, you think I shouldn't teach them how to deal with werewolves? No, that's still necessary. There's a time bomb in the school, and it's only natural to teach students how to defuse it. Aaron smiled wryly. What I want to say is that making me, someone who doesn't want to answer questions, answer them is somewhat difficult. This is the teacher's prerogative, and you can choose not to answer, Snape said calmly. As long as you say don't know, like Miss Granger. Aaron. The next day, the weather was worse than expected. The wind howled, thunder rolled, and torrential rain poured down. It would be depressing to stay indoors in such weather, but the Quidditch pitch was full of people. All the teachers and students in the school enjoyed the game in such an exciting and tense environment. Gryffindor versus Hufflepuff. The red and yellow figures were particularly blurry in the rain, which had a great impact on each player, making the broomsticks more difficult to control than usual. Aaron hid under a large umbrella, and Abe held a fruit plate, waving his paws happily. Watching the game in this environment really has a different taste, Aaron said with emotion. It's so exciting, it's like hell mode. Fortunately, my hand was injured, otherwise it would be Slytherin, Draco said with a gloating smile. Look at Potter. He wears glasses. I doubt whether he can see his teammates clearly. I'm afraid to disappoint you, but Hermione has put a spell on his glasses so that the rain can't obstruct his vision. That's okay, Draco said dismissively. He's drenched now, and this scene doesn't happen all the time. Gryffindor is leading now, but as long as the snitch isn't caught, the game may not be over until the evening. Click. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning flashed across the sky and struck the broom of Gryffindor chaser Angelina. Flames ignited at the end of the broom, and she clung to the handle tightly, trying to make an emergency landing. However, she still slammed into the platform uncontrollably. At the critical moment, Harry rode the Nimbus 2000 and knocked her into the crowd, barely saving her life. After that, he immediately adjusted his direction and flew towards the sky. One of the Hufflepuffs was about to catch the snitch, but unfortunately, a bolt of lightning struck the snitch and hit him. Both Hufflepuff and Gryffindor lost a player, leveling the playing field once again. Watching the yellow figure fall to the ground beside him, Harry was stunned for a few seconds, feeling a bit lost. At that moment, the outline of a black dog appeared in the clouds, illuminated by lightning, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Harry's heart skipped a beat, and he chased after the snitch. He flew higher and higher, getting closer and closer to it, but gradually he felt a bone-chilling cold. A figure in a black robe flew towards him, and as it approached, a layer of frost formed on his Nimbus 2000. Harry's heart skipped a beat. He didn't understand why the Dementors were here, but recalling the earlier ominous sign, he knew he had to leave the high altitude immediately. However, within seconds of his flight, he found himself surrounded. Hundreds of Dementors occupied the area. He narrowly escaped 1, 2, 3, but the fourth Dementor passed by him, opening its disgusting mouth and making a wheezing sound. Familiar fear struck, and Harry closed his eyes in pain, unconsciously loosening his grip and falling from a height. Before he lost consciousness, he vaguely saw the process of his parents being killed. The people on the platform noticed the presence of the Dementors, but all this happened in a flash. Before they could react, they saw a red figure plummeting. "This is extreme sports. I was absolutely right not to join the Quidditch team," Aaron gasped, then drew out his wand and pointed it at Harry Potter, who was falling rapidly. A white light flickered on Harry, and his descent slowed down a bit. "What did you do?" Draco asked curiously. "It's nothing. I just added a protective spell to him and turned his accelerated movement into a uniform one," Aaron said simply. "I can only do this for him, but I believe others will not turn a blind eye." As he spoke, he looked towards the teacher's seat. A third-year student like him could act in time, so the professors surely could respond as well. Dumbledore stood up. He didn't use his wand, but simply set a spell to reduce Harry's shock and stop his speed, ensuring his safety. He then cast the Patronus charm into the sky, driving all the Dementors away. Aaron raised his eyebrows. He also had the confidence to deal with hundreds of Dementors, but he couldn't do it as calmly as Dumbledore. It seemed as easy as casting a simple levitation spell with almost no effort. Dumbledore seemed to have noticed something, looked at Aaron from tens of meters away, and gave him a kind smile. Originally, Aaron didn't feel the cold, but this smile made him shiver uncontrollably. The Quidditch game didn't stop because of this accident, but Gryffindor lacked their most critical seeker, so the result was inevitable. Hufflepuff won the match, and Cedric caught the snitch, but he didn't feel like he had won. Instead, he demanded a fair rematch, which Wood refused. "I suddenly appreciate this senior," Aaron said with a smile. "Flint and the others should really learn from him." "Pull it down!" Draco shrugged helplessly. "To be honest, it's a miracle that Slytherin can persist for 2 years without fouling." "Oh," Aaron sighed slightly, "I'm going to see Harry Potter." "Me too," Draco said excitedly. "No, you can't go," Aaron stopped him immediately. "Going at this time is like adding salt to the wound, and it will drive him crazy." Draco hesitated for a moment, then nodded regretfully. "Then tell him something for me. Don't forget the homework for Defense Against the Dark Arts class." "Are you a devil?" Aaron rolled his eyes, then picked up his things and rushed to the school hospital. Harry was already awake when he arrived, surrounded by the Weasleys, Hermione, and Neville. The other Gryffindors were gathered around Harry's hospital bed. "It seems you're lucky. No missing arms or broken legs," Aaron said slowly. "Is that supposed to be comforting?" Hermione rolled her eyes at him. "The Gryffindor team lost to Hufflepuff." "I should be glad I didn't get hurt falling from such a height. Winning or losing doesn't matter right now," Harry said, pulling a bag of chocolates from Abe's pocket. "You might need this." "Thanks." Harry tore off the wrapping paper and ate a piece, feeling a slight return of his strength. "Wood must be very unhappy." "Yes," Fred said regretfully. He had high hopes for this game, but no one could have predicted a Dementor would enter the school. Dumbledore was furious. He drove them away after saving you, Hermione added. You really should learn the Patronus charm. There's no time to delay, Aaron reminded him. There's something else you should know, Ron said hesitantly, opening a cloth bag to reveal the remains of Harry's broomstick. The sight of the broken pieces seemed to echo the sound of heartbreak. This probably can't be repaired, Aaron said with a sigh. The repairing spell isn't a cure-all. For ordinary items, it's fine, but a magical broomstick this damaged can only be used as firewood. There's nothing you can do about it, Ron said, looking at Harry apologetically. When you fell, the wind blew it into the humping willow. You know that tree doesn't like being hit. Professor Flitwick was very careful when he retrieved the wreckage. Looking at the dozen pieces of wood and twigs, Harry felt his heart clench and his eyes gradually lost their color. Quidditch was his favorite thing, and this broomstick had been with him for 2 years. It was his most cherished possession and his best friend. That look reminds me of a friend of mine, Aaron said. He looked the same way when he was confused. If I had to describe it in one word, it would be lifeless. Aaron's words caught everyone's attention. No need to be so pessimistic. I might be able to fix it. Really? Harry grabbed Aaron's hands eagerly, a glimmer of hope lighting up his dull eyes. Hey, Aaron smiled awkwardly, pulling his hand away. I can only restore it to its original state in appearance. It won't be able to fly again. In other words, it can only stay with you as a toy model in the future. Harry Potter? Chapter 310, Restarting the Chamber of Secrets, Promoted to the Great Magister. Harry Potter thought it over repeatedly and with great reluctance handed over the wreckage of his Nimbus 2000 to Aaron, asking him to restore it as much as possible to its original state. Aaron patted his chest and made a promise. For him, this was a delicate task, but only slightly more challenging than a puzzle. What he lacked most was patience. On Monday, Professor Lupin returned to class. The first thing he did in the Defense Against the Dark Arts class was to announce that the 2-page parchment homework assigned by Snape would not need to be handed in. This news made everyone feel good. Malfoy finally removed his bandages and celebrated the Gryffindor team's defeat. However, his joy was premature. At the end of November, the Hufflepuff team lost their game against Ravenclaw, which meant that the Gryffindor team had a slim chance to recover and win the Quidditch Cup. Although the hope was faint, the Gryffindor team began intense training with renewed vigor. In the Slytherin Chamber of Secrets, Aaron and Miss Sy sat on the sofa, warming themselves by the fire and feeling a sense of accomplishment. Last term, the heir of Slytherin had caused panic with several attacks. It wasn't until the basilisk was killed and Voldemort's 16-year-old diary, Horcrux, was destroyed that Hogwarts returned to normal. After that, the Chamber of Secrets seemed to lose its value and significance, and everyone, including Albus Dumbledore, selectively forgot about it. But before Halloween, Aaron decided to reopen the Chamber of Secrets and spent a lot of time on its transformation. First, the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets was no longer Myrtle's girls' bathroom. Aaron studied the pipes extending in all directions from the secret room, found the one closest to the bottom of the Black Lake, and used earth element magic to excavate and modify it. He finally built a stable passage connecting it to his dormitory. Secondly, he made full use of the building materials in the secret room and transformed it into a brand new secret base using transformation techniques. It now had a huge space, complete functions, and basic living facilities. Additionally, he drained the blood of the basilisk corpse and used this special blood to draw dozens of giant defensive magic circles. Although it was not comparable to Wecht's secret chamber, as long as there was enough magic power supply, even a fully resurrected Dark Lord would not be able to attack it easily. Finally, he destroyed all the other passages, leaving only one connected to his dormitory. Apart from the dragon language, there was only one key that could open this passage, which was presented to him by the dwarf king Thorin Oakenshield. Thanks to the great Salazar Slytherin, Aaron toasted a glass of wine to the statue of Slytherin. The predecessors planted trees, and the descendants enjoyed the shade. If it wasn't for Slytherin laying the foundation, It would take at least a year and a half to build a base, and the safety and practicality couldn't be compared at all. I also thank the great ancestors of Gaius, Sinian said with a smug smile. A good home education is the key to success. If it weren't for the earnest teachings of more than 20 ancestors, even with the legacy of Salazar Slytherin, I would have no way of reforming it. At most, I could barely use it and would have to sneak into the girls' bathroom every time. Finally, thanks to our dragon cub, Aaron and Sinian said in unison, as more than half a year's rations in this base were taken from Abe's dragon hoard. Abe clutched his now empty pockets and wept loudly. Nothing, he lamented, beating the ground hard as big teardrops fell. He had thought the grain hoarded last school year could be kept for another year, but it had been confiscated in less than 3 months. This was not the most abominable thing. The most abominable thing is that it hasn't kept the food it saved little by little this semester. Look out. What's yours is mine. What's mine is. I barely stopped crying, looking at his master expectantly. Aaron couldn't help but twitch his face as he spoke, sitting on the ground a little dejectedly. I wanted to share it with you, but I sadly discovered an unwilling fact. It seems that most of the time, my master is much poorer than you. Seeing Abe's tears, Aaron immediately added, "What is mine is ours. Don't cry. I'll buy you more snacks next time we go to Hogsmeade. Just keep yourself full." Abe wiped away his tears and stood up reluctantly. Although it would be his own money when the time came, what's mine is ours still gave him a certain amount of psychological comfort. System, open the personal panel. Magic energy, body 536, Le Magister. Thought body 536, Elementary Magister. Total 1072, Elementary Great Magister, a rare existence in the magic world. Talent, rare in a lifetime. Magic energy increases by 4 points every day. Body increases by 2 points. Mind body increases by 2 points. Items, Moondrop. 2/3 can remove any negative spells. Resurrection Potion can revive any creature that died within an hour. Magic Point. Seeing the 5-figure mana, Aaron was so excited that he even had the urge to laugh out loud. Great Magister. This is the Grand Magister. Although it is only a beginner level, it also means that he has become a real powerhouse in the wizarding world. In fact, he had reached this step half a month ago, but he didn't dare to be promoted casually at Hogwarts because there was a wizard here who could step into the Holy Realm at any time, Albus Dumbledore. If the White Demon King found out, all his previous concealment methods would be meaningless. A 13-year-old Magister is already conspicuous enough, and the old wizard would definitely pay more attention to him, possibly setting up traps for him. To prevent problems before they happened, he established this secret base deep underground in Hogwarts. Coupled with the isolated atmosphere and perception of many magic circles, he dared to be promoted to the Great Magister with confidence. Aaron took several deep breaths in a row, then turned his head to look at his thought body. "Are you ready?" "Of course." The thought body smiled lightly, gradually becoming transparent and turning into countless golden light spots that blended into the main body. A few seconds later, Aaron slowly opened his eyes. He seriously felt his own magic power and realized that his strength had increased by at least 50% compared to when he was a Magister. It might not seem like much, but the increase in magic power and the reduction in the consumption of magic energy were enough for him to surpass his previous peak. In addition to the magic power, he also fully absorbed the knowledge of elective courses learned by the thought body in the past 3 months, as well as the experience of drawing magic circles. In the blink of an eye, a complex crimson magic circle appeared in front of him, and violent flames gushed out of it, hitting the wall heavily. Boom! The defensive magic circle was activated instantly, and the huge pale yellow magic circle blocked the flames in front of the wall. Until the light of the fire dissipated, the wall remained intact. The instant cast of the advanced magic circle can already be achieved, Aaron said to himself with some relief, feeling that the efforts of the past few months had not been in vain. Next, he needed to shorten the drawing time of the ultimate elemental magic circle until it was instantaneous. This task was 10 times more difficult than the high-level magic circle, But if he could achieve it, his combat power would far exceed others at the same level, making it possible to win battles against stronger opponents. When it comes to the Great Magister, it will not be so easy to improve his strength, but he still has Aaron had little confidence in himself and aimed to establish a strong relationship with Dumbledore before graduation. By the way, we need to try superposition, Aaron said, extending his right hand to release a mid-level fire attribute magic circle. Moments later, a green wind attribute magic circle attached itself to the fire circle. The wind fueled the fire, and although they were just two mid-level elemental magic circles, their combination unleashed power comparable to a high-level magic circle. As expected of me, Aaron nodded in satisfaction. It really worked. System, open them all. There are some things I need to buy. Okay, host. Consumption is supported. Magic category at 1500 magic points transforms magic power into magic crystals, which, when activated, generate a large number of lightning strikes. Destroying the magic crystal will also cause a massive reaction force lightning strike on the destroyer. At Yukong, 100 magic points, flight speed depends on personal strength. Huofuogan, 200 magic points, produces a huge and hot magic flame capable of destroying almost anything in its path. Ethel, 500 magic points, literally, but it is not effective on people with strong will. Tenji Chusen, 300 magic points. Material category, at formidable. Miyin, 100 magic points. Mandalatal, 5 magic points. At Nowang, Asinyo, 3 magic points. Item category, at Ninja Mask, 2500 magic points. The wearer can summon the ninja group of the Shadow Corps. Note, collecting 10 masks can control the Kingdom of the Shadow. At Psychedelic, 500 magic points, saves thoughts and memories in the mind. Morphase, 1 magic point. At Jelani's Emerald, 50 magic points. The person who gets the gem will be doomed. At Sengsamordang, 50 magic points. Inject magic power into the magic crystal. Before the magic power is exhausted, even muggles can use this to perform the simplest levitation spell. Ah, when the money is gone, you realize how much you need it, Aaron sighed, shaking his head. He then placed an order for the Temple of Shenming and the Fiendfire Curse, emptying all his magic points. It felt like he was back to square one overnight. During this period, he refreshed the blank product column dozens of times before finding magic or props worth buying. Among them, the Nigia mask was what he desired the most. This mask required a specific magic solution to be removed, otherwise it would gradually control the wearer. However, once he bought it, he could fully absorb its power without any side effects. The number of magic points was a limitation. It took too long to accumulate them through sign-ins, and the system hadn't released any tasks for a while. Therefore, he decided to use the points to enhance his strength first. Chapter 311, Marauder's Map, Restocking. When Aaron emerged from the secret room, he had already dispelled his doppelganger, but both of their faces were pale. It's no wonder the Shenming Temple is so expensive, Aaron said with a wry smile. He had intended to set a trap in the secret room. If someone managed to breach its defenses, the Shenming Temple would activate, unleashing Thundersea Purgatory to obliterate the entire room and any intruders. However, he hadn't anticipated that casting this spell would consume 1/3 of his mana, leaving him drained. This magic is a forbidden technique. Its deterrent effect is more significant than its power. It's best to use it sparingly in the future, he advised himself. I understand. I was just experimenting. We need to ensure this secret base is secure for the years to come, Aaron's doppelganger agreed. In truth, the secret room was primarily for his use. He planned to study magic, prepare potions, and even rest there. The castle was blanketed in thick snow, and the gorgeous Christmas tree added to the festive atmosphere. Many students chose to leave school for the holidays, but Aaron decided to stay, as his parents would likely not be home. Early on Saturday morning, Aaron was skating on the snow around the castle. Abe, dressed in a Christmas-themed outfit, was a bright red figure against the white snow. Going to Hogsmeade? Hermione, Harry, and Ron approached him. Of course I'm going, Aaron replied, glancing at Abe, who was rolling in the snow. He felt a bit guilty. All the food he had saved up had been confiscated, so a trip to Hogsmeade to restock was necessary. "You guys go," Harry said, both envious and disappointed. "Wood lent me a copy of the complete book of broomsticks. I need to practice with the new broomstick to better prepare for the Quidditch game." "It's a bit self-deceiving," Aaron shrugged. "The only broomsticks the Gryffindor team has are the Meteor series antiques, which are far inferior to the Nimbus series. You don't need a new broom, you need a good broom." Harry fell silent. He knew Aaron was right, but he couldn't afford a good broomstick unless he dipped into his parents' inheritance, which was out of the question. Sensing the awkward atmosphere, Hermione quickly changed the subject. "Let's go to Honeyduke's. You can buy everything you need for Christmas there." "That's right. They have a lot of interesting items," Ron added. "We'll bring some back for you." "I've prepared your Christmas present in advance," Aaron said. "A broomstick." Harry's eyes lit up, and Ron and Hermione looked relieved. Given Aaron's status and financial resources, they assumed the broomstick would be top-notch. "Model," Aaron added, shattering their fantasies with just 2 words. "Have you patched the Nimbus 2000? Hermione asked. "Of course, but now it can only sweep the floor," Aaron replied. "Thank you," Harry sighed. Although it wasn't what he had hoped for, it was still comforting to see his old friend again. "You're welcome. Also, good brooms aren't just bought, they can be borrowed," Aaron said meaningfully. "Don't count on Slytherin, but Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff might be willing to help." Harry suddenly felt a weight lift from his shoulders. If he could borrow a good broomstick, he wouldn't be letting Gryffindor down as a seeker. A few minutes later, Harry watched from Gryffindor Tower as Aaron, Hermione, and Ron joined the procession of students heading to Hogsmeade. For a long time, Harry couldn't contain the curiosity in his heart. He put on the invisibility cloak and bravely prepared to take a risk. The Dementors had entered Hogwarts during the first Quidditch match, which made Dumbledore so angry that he personally drove them out of the school. Due to Dumbledore's authority, the Dementors might not dare to attack him. After all, he is not serious. Harry walked slowly through the snow, the sound of his footsteps rustling softly. George and Fred, who were building a snowman, noticed the footprints in the snow and immediately thought of the invisibility cloak and Harry Potter wearing it. The 2 brothers exchanged a glance, then simultaneously grabbed his arm and dragged him into the castle. "Clever, Harry," said George, "but not clever enough. We have a better way." "I want to go to Hogsmeade," Harry admitted. "We know," Fred replied. "Don't worry, we'll help you. We'll point out a shortcut as long as you keep quiet." After entering the castle, Harry reluctantly took off his invisibility cloak. Fred handed him a stack of square parchment. "What kind of garbage is this?" Harry asked, puzzled. "This is the secret of our success," Fred said with some reluctance. "If it wasn't because we all remembered it, I would really be reluctant to give it to you, but now that you obviously need it more than we do, consider it an early Christmas present. George, let's go." George took out his wand and pointed it at the parchment. "I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs proudly present the Marauders map," George announced. Harry opened the parchment carefully while chanting the words that appeared on it. Immediately, he was shocked. The Marauders map clearly recorded all the locations and personnel within Hogwarts, even showing Dumbledore in the headmaster's office. Through it, he could track everyone's movements in Hogwarts. More importantly, the map also recorded several secret passages leading to Hogsmeade, which was exactly what he needed. "Great! Where did this come from?" Harry asked, amazed. "Filch's office. We stole it in 1st grade," Fred said proudly. "There are 7 secret passages out of the castle." George pointed to the map. "Filch only knows 4 of them. One of the other 3 is behind the mirror on the 5th floor, but it has collapsed and is completely blocked. One is guarded by the Humping Willow, so I do not recommend you go there. But the last one is absolutely safe and can lead to Honeyduke's cellar smoothly, so I recommend you use this one. Also, don't forget to erase it when you're done, or everyone will see it." "Tap it," Fred instructed, tapping the Marauder's map with his wand and saying, "Mischief managed." The vivid map turned into an ordinary piece of parchment again. After delivering the present, the Weasley brothers left. Harry, full of excitement, held the map and followed the route to the one-eyed witch passage. The secret passage would ensure he wouldn't run into Dementors or Sirius Black, and would lead him straight to Honeydukes, which couldn't be better. Just in case, he put on the invisibility cloak. Honeydukes was crowded with Hogwarts students. Aaron placed Abe on the counter, and wherever its paw pointed, the salesperson would deliver the corresponding snack. In public, Aaron couldn't just stuff things into Abe's pockets, as the untraceable stretching charm would definitely be exposed, so he simply took a few large bags. The point of sweeping the goods was to show off, and a stack of gold galleons placed in front of the salesperson ensured their diligence. Multi-flavored chocolates, milk fudge, pear hard candy, coconut sorbet, lollipops, and more were all put into the bags. Even if Honeydukes didn't have a particular item, the salesperson would buy it from other stores. "Why do you buy so much food?" Hermione asked, her expression becoming very unnatural as she looked at the 3 big bags that were gradually filling up. "Help," Aaron said, placing 2 bags directly into the hands of Ron and Hermione. "I have a cat to raise, and you all know how much it eats." The 2 looked at each other in dismay, and then back at Aaron. Abe, who was pointing at the country on the counter, was speechless. Hagrid had plenty of meat and wine when he raised the dragon, but even that wasn't enough for him. In comparison, Abe, who could freely control his body shape and eat anything, was much easier to raise. However, they couldn't imagine how exaggerated the dragon's appetite was. "It's hard enough for you," Ron said with a smile. But the next moment, Abe turned to walk round and gave him a rather sharp look. Hermione shrugged and walked outside with the bag in her arms. When they reached an open space, the 3 of them put down the bag, and Abe walked up, drooling, and stuffed the food inside into his pocket one by one. "This is too unbelievable," Hermione murmured incredulously. "The untraceable stretching curse can still be used like this. Did it bring a granary with it?" Aaron replied. "It can be said so, but the granary has been emptied and is now being replenished. It's just put in so haphazardly. Is it appropriate?" Ron asked with some concern. "These are not decorations. What if it expires?" "The group pet of the Gaius family," Aaron said, amused. "Its clothes are all specially made. In addition to having a large space, they also have the function of keeping things fresh. It is what it was when you put it in, and it is what it is when you take it out." Hearing this, Ron thought of his mouse and Hermione thought of her cat. In contrast, they felt heartbroken and ashamed. They were all pets, but the difference in treatment was too big. But who made Abe the head dragon? Appearance, identity, bloodline, ability, and IQ all crushed their cats and mice. "Are you here?" Harry's voice suddenly sounded from not far away. They turned their heads to see 2 lines of long footprints approaching in the snow. "Harry!" Ron exclaimed in amazement. "How did you get here? Invisibility cloaks can't fool Dementors. Have you learned to apparate?" "No," Harry said, taking off his invisibility cloak and showing a smiling face. "Thanks to your 2 brothers, George and Fred. They really are hidden geniuses. They actually have." Chapter 312, The Unacceptable Truth. "Those 2 scoundrels never mentioned the Marauders map to me," Ron said, his face full of displeasure. "I'm their real brother. Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, Prongs." Aaron couldn't help but smirk. "The wizarding world is truly full of talents. They must have walked through every inch of Hogwarts to create this map. If I'm not mistaken, they were all Gryffindors. Only Gryffindors would make something like this when they're bored." "You call this being bored?" Ron looked at Aaron, dissatisfied. "This is obviously a genius idea. With this map, Filch and Snape can't even catch us. Harry won't keep it. He'll give the map to Professor McGonagall." Aaron couldn't help but laugh. "Hermione, the Marauders map is a treasure to some extent. If it were me, I would never hand it over. Imagine if a dedicated professor could know where a student was at any time, anywhere. That's terrible," Ron said with lingering fear. "Harry, you must not hand over this map. Even if it is destroyed, it is for Gryffindor." Hermione hesitated but remained silent. She also didn't want her position to be exposed under the teacher's nose all the time. It was too awkward. "I'm not going to hand it in," Harry said. "Fred and George stole it from Filch's office, and if I hand it in, I'll have to explain where it came from. Besides, if I hand over the map, I definitely won't be able to hide sneaking out." What about those secret passages? Hermione asked, a little uneasy. Sirius must have entered Hogwarts through the secret passages, otherwise the Dementors would not have missed him. Hogwarts has 7 secret passages. Filch knows 4 of them. One of the remaining 3 has collapsed. One is guarded by the Whomping Willow, and the other is the one I just used, Harry said, his voice trailing off. He wasn't sure if Sirius knew about the secret passage. No problem for now, Aaron pointed to a message on the bulletin board. There are Dementors patrolling the streets of Hogsmeade at sunset every day until Sirius Black is arrested. Even if he knew about this secret passage, the Dementors wouldn't give him a chance. As for the daytime, I don't think he would have the guts to show up openly. But just in case, you'd better stay at school and not go out casually. Harry nodded silently. He should be content to have come out once on Christmas, especially since he didn't sign the permission form. At that moment, several people appeared at the door of the 3 broomsticks: Professor McGonagall, Professor Flitwick, Hagrid, and Cornelius Fudge. "Oh," Aaron said, a little speechlessly. "You are so lucky." Harry shivered subconsciously and quickly put on the invisibility cloak. If the Hogwarts professors, vice principal, forest warden, and the Minister of Magic saw him here, he would be in serious trouble. "Rosmerta, my dear, I hope your business is doing well," said Fudge to the 3 broomsticks' owner. "If your Ministry of Magic didn't have Dementors coming every other night, my business would be much better than it is now," Rosmerta replied. A look of embarrassment appeared on Fudge's face. "We have a murderer at large." "Sirius Black has come to Hogsmeade," said Professor McGonagall. "But why did he come?" Rosmerta asked. "For Harry Potter," Fudge said under his breath. "Harry Potter?" Rosmerta's voice rose, and Fudge and the others immediately made a gesture of silence, entering the bar a little nervously. "Don't go," Aaron grabbed Harry Potter's left hand. "Your invisibility cloak may not be safe." "Let go of me, Aaron." Harry shook his arm vigorously, but his left hand seemed to be pinched by pliers, and it was difficult to move. "Sirius came here to kill me, and I have to figure out why. This is my chance." Aaron was silent for a moment, then let him go. A row of footprints appeared in the snow, and the door of the 3 broomsticks opened and closed automatically. "You let him go in like that?" Ron watched in astonishment as the row of footprints disappeared. The door of the 3 broomsticks. Aaron sighed helplessly. "Then what can I do? The ancestors once said that the truth must always be faced, no matter how bloody it is." "What truth?" Hermione asked, puzzled. "I hope he doesn't know too much, otherwise he might not be able to handle it," Aaron replied, picking up Abe and sitting on the bench by the door of the 3 broomsticks. "Wait, he will come out. But what if he is discovered?" Ron asked worriedly. "The people here are all big shots." "Don't worry," Aaron said nonchalantly. "If he is found out, it will be more embarrassing for them than for us." "Aaron, what do you know?" Hermione pressed. "What is the connection between Sirius Black and Harry Potter?" Aaron remained silent. It didn't matter how much he knew. What mattered was how much Harry Potter would find out. Meanwhile, Harry followed Rosmerta and the others to the 2nd floor of the bar. Several professors and the Minister of Magic ordered their favorite drinks and began to talk. "Harry Potter's parents went into hiding when they found themselves being hunted many years ago, remember?" Professor McGonagall said. "Nobody knew where they were, but Black did, and he told you-know-who. Black took you-know-who to the Potters that night and killed Peter Pettigrew," Fudge added. "That pudgy boy?" Rosmerta asked in surprise. "I seem to remember him. He was always right behind Black. James and Black were inseparable. Peter wanted to warn Potter's parents, and he could have succeeded, but he ran into an old friend, Black. Black is vicious. He didn't just kill Peter. He destroyed him," Fudge said, raising his right little finger. "One finger. Peter only has 1 finger left." "That's not the worst," Professor McGonagall said in a deep voice. "The worst thing is that Sirius Black was, and still is, the godfather of Harry Potter." Harry Potter didn't know he had heard all this. He was still dazed when he came out of the 3 broomsticks. Hearing the door open and seeing the 2 rows of footprints in the snow, Aaron and the others followed him quietly without disturbing him. When they came to an open space, they heard the sound of crying from behind a stone. It was the first time they had seen Harry Potter cry so badly. "Harry," Aaron asked hesitantly. How much do you know? Everything, Harry said, taking off his invisibility cloak and looking at Aaron seriously. Did you know too? I only knew a little, or rather, Draco told me, but that's all I dared to know, Aaron said, spreading his hands helplessly. I was afraid you would go after Black with your life. You should have told me, Harry said, his eyes red. You shouldn't have stopped Malfoy. I had a right to know. Aaron smiled weakly. Actually, I wanted to tell you, but you know, many people chose to hide it. Several professors at the school, the Minister of Magic, even Rubus Hagrid. I don't think I can outthink them. What are you talking about? Ron asked in confusion. Harry paused and then told them what he had heard, enough to shatter the worldview of ordinary people, the cause and effect of his parents' death. That's why our family doesn't use the Fidelius charm, and we never set up any secret keeper, Aaron said with a wry smile. Maybe Gaius's most powerful talent is making contracts. I used to think this was a kind of sadness, but now I don't think so anymore. At least the parties to the contract will not betray each other. Sirius should have been my parents' best friend, but he betrayed them. What kind of friend is this? Harry roared angrily. I hope I can find him. I'm going to kill him. No, you can't do such a stupid thing, Hermione said hastily. The Ministry of Magic will be responsible for this. The Dementors will definitely capture him and take him to Azkaban. You can't take risks. It plays into Black's hands, and your parents wouldn't want you to. Don't talk about my parents, Harry said loudly. I heard my father's voice. When I was attacked by the Dementors, I heard my parents' voices. My mother begged Voldemort to spare me. I had never spoken to them before, and the first time I heard their voices, they were screams before death. If it were you, could you bear it? I couldn't bear it, Aaron admitted truthfully, then shifted the topic. But whether you can bear it or not, you have to. I'm not trying to ruin the mood, but if you fight him, you'll be the one who dies. Sirius Black is a genius wizard. Even though he was imprisoned in Azkaban for 12 years, it wouldn't be easy for a third-year wizard like you to defeat him. You think we're just third-year wizards? Ron looked at Aaron blankly. I know you're better than us, but don't act like you're not in the third year, too. That's not important, Aaron waved his hand dismissively. What matters is that Harry can't beat Sirius Black. Black knows Harry is at Hogwarts. He knows the location of the Gryffindor common room, and he could kill Harry if he finds the chance. But what about Harry? He has no advantage at all, and he's been targeted by the Dementors. He has the Marauders map, Ron reminded in a low voice. Well, that's the only advantage, but you have to look at that map all the time. Otherwise, you won't even know when Black is going to enter Hogwarts. I know, Harry said firmly, clutching the Marauders map tightly. I will get familiar with this map as soon as possible. As long as I can do this, even if Black enters Hogwarts, he won't be able to catch me. Additionally, I will ask Professor Lupin to teach me the Patronus charm. He wasn't well enough to teach me before, but it should be fine once school starts. Chapter 313. Who Sent the Firebolt? Christmas morning arrived, and Aaron woke up early to find a pile of gift boxes at the foot of his bed. He eagerly dug through them and found a gift from Jin's, a crystal-clear crystal ball. I knew it, Aaron murmured, carefully placing the crystal ball on the table. He followed the method taught by Professor Trelawney and began to concentrate on divination. However, after more than 10 minutes, he only saw some vague fragments in the crystal ball. A goblet with blue and white flames dancing inside and a white claw. Aaron shook his head violently and took a moment to recover. He had been learning divination for less than half a year and could barely be considered an apprentice fortune-teller. Divining the future with a crystal ball was still quite exhausting for him. That claw looks like, Aaron thought, turning his head to look at Abe, who was lying on the rolling bed made of cotton candy. He couldn't help but feel a toothache. It should be no problem, right? He comforted himself unconvincingly. Although his dragon was a bit mischievous, it shouldn't cause any trouble. Aaron then opened the gift from his parents. Just when he thought it was a postcard, a familiar portfolio appeared in front of his eyes with a few words written on it, guaranteed to be much more detailed than the previous one. I hope you can choose carefully and don't make us wait too long. Gulp. Aaron couldn't help swallowing and subconsciously took a few steps back. It's a wonderful Christmas, and they actually sent over the file bag for a blind date. It's just adding to my troubles. It's not as good as a postcard. Crunch. A floorboard in the corner opened, and the thought body emerged from it. Merry Christmas, it said. Stop mocking me. This is the worst Christmas I've ever had, Aaron replied, stuffing the portfolio into the gift box speechlessly. He was about to put it in the secret room to gather dust. How's the renovation going down there? He asked. You know, transfiguration is not a panacea, the thought body sighed meaningfully. We are not Salazar Slytherin, and the resources we can mobilize are quite limited. Change as much as you can, but at least the bathroom, bedroom, kitchen, practice room, and potion room must be separated. I understand. After all, I am the one who lives down there, the thought body replied. Aaron smiled awkwardly. I'm going to eat first. You arrange it yourself, and don't forget to practice the magic circle. Thought body. When Aaron arrived at the auditorium, a large dining table was placed in the center. Since many students had chosen to go home for Christmas, there were only a dozen people eating there. Principal Dumbledore, the deans of the 4 houses, the caretaker Filch, Harry, Ron, Hermione, and 2 other students, a first year and a 5th year. Gaius, sit down, Dumbledore laughed. Aaron sat at the table naturally, and Abe also got a seat and began to enjoy a hearty breakfast. Did you give Harry a Christmas present? Ron asked curiously. A model broom. I said it before, Aaron replied. Really? Ron was skeptical. Harry did receive a magic broom this morning, but in addition to the Nimbus 2000 specimen, there was also a world-standard firebolt. We have eliminated all the people who could be excluded, and now you are the only one left with this ability. If it was really you who sent it, you can admit it openly. There's nothing to be ashamed of, Hermione laughed. It's really not me, Aaron shook his head. I feel sorry for the Nimbus 2000, but that doesn't mean I'm going to give him the best broomstick. That's not how money is spent. Who would it be if it wasn't you? Harry frowned slightly. There was no signature on the broom, and he didn't know any rich person who could spend so much money for him. How do I know? Maybe even Hagrid, Aaron suggested. It can't be him, Ron said with certainty. It's impossible for Hagrid to afford a firebolt. Ha-ha, Aaron couldn't help but sneer. What ignorance. Al, though Hagrid looks a little sloppy, he is definitely a rare rich man at Hogwarts. Don't forget that he has access to the Forbidden Forest, which is full of valuable resources, to find someone to buy it for him, and he has a strong motive to get close to Harry. Harry's eyes widened in disbelief. But why would he do that? He wants to kill me, not give me gifts. Hermione shook her head. Think about it, Harry. If he wanted to kill you, he could have done it already. There must be something more to this. Ron frowned, trying to piece together the puzzle. But why would he want to get close to Harry? What could he possibly gain from that? Aaron interjected. Maybe he wants to tell Harry something, or perhaps he has a different agenda. We can't be sure until we know more. The room fell silent as everyone pondered the possibilities. The idea that Sirius Black, a notorious criminal, might have a hidden motive was unsettling. Regardless of his intentions, we need to be cautious, Hermione said firmly. We can't let our guard down. Harry nodded, still grappling with the revelation. You're right. We need to find out more about Sirius Black and his connection to me. Ron sighed. This just keeps getting more complicated. First Hagrid, now Sirius Black. What's next? Aaron looked at them thoughtfully. We need to gather more information. Let's keep our eyes and ears open. And Harry, be careful with that firebolt. It might be more than just a broomstick. Harry glanced at the firebolt, now resting in the corner of the room. I'll be careful. Thanks, Aaron. As they left the room, each of them was lost in their thoughts, trying to make sense of the tangled web of mysteries surrounding them. The stakes were higher than ever, and they knew they had to tread carefully. The next few days were a blur of research and speculation. Hermione spent hours in the library, poring over old records and books, while Harry and Ron tried to gather information from their classmates. Aaron, on the other hand, kept a close watch on Draco, hoping to glean any useful information. One evening, as they gathered in the common room, Hermione shared her findings. I've been looking into Sirius Black's history, and I found something interesting. He was once very close to your parents, Harry. They were best friends. Harry's eyes widened. What? How is that possible? He betrayed them to Voldemort. Hermione nodded. That's what everyone believes, but there's more to the story. It seems that Sirius was framed. The real traitor was someone else. Ron looked shocked. Who could it be? Hermione hesitated before answering. Peter Pettigrew. He was another friend of your parents. He faked his own death and framed Sirius for the betrayal. Harry felt a surge of anger and confusion. So, Sirius is innocent, and he's been on the run all these years for something he didn't do. Hermione nodded. It looks that way. We need to find a way to prove his innocence. Aaron, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. If we can clear Sirius's name, it might change everything, but we need solid evidence. Harry clenched his fists. We'll find it. We have to, for my parents and for Sirius. The determination in his voice was clear. They had a new mission now, one that could change the course of their lives. The truth was out there, and they were determined to uncover it, no matter the cost. To send a broom, what if he casts a curse? I suggest having Professor McGonagall examine it first, just to be sure. Impossible, Aaron replied with an embarrassed smile. If Sirius wanted to harm Harry, he wouldn't need to send a broomstick. He could just send some snacks laced with poison. And it's a firebolt, the most expensive broomstick in the world. Isn't it absurd to spend so much money just to make Harry fall off during a Quidditch match? That's true, Harry thought deeply. He had only had the firebolt for a few hours and hadn't even had a chance to warm it up yet. He was reluctant to hand it over. Hermione, realizing she might have been overreacting, smiled awkwardly and continued eating her breakfast. At that moment, the door of the Great Hall suddenly opened, and Professor Trelawney walked in. To match the festive atmosphere, her attire was much brighter than usual. Sybil, Dumbledore greeted her with a laugh. What a surprise! I was looking at the crystal ball just now, and fate led me here. Please forgive me for being late, Professor Trelawney said with a tremor in her voice. 13 people? My Merlin! When 13 people dine together, the first one to stand up will be the first one to die. Including you. There are 14 people, Professor, Aaron said a little exasperatedly. Trelawney's divination skills were impeccable, but she could be a bit dramatic. Dumbledore waved his wand and conjured a chair next to Aaron. Please sit down, Sybil. Trelawney hesitated, then slowly took her seat. Is Professor Lupin not here? Professor Lupin is ill, and he probably won't recover until next semester, Harry said with some concern. He looks a little weak. It doesn't matter, Dumbledore reassured him. Professor Snape will make him the potion he needs. Snape nodded expressionlessly. Professor, I have a question about divination, Aaron said after a moment of hesitation. Go ahead, Mr. Gaius, Trelawney replied, looking particularly excited. The others turned their attention to him with interest. I used a crystal ball for divination today, but the future I saw was strange. I saw a cup with blue and white flames inside. The Goblet of Fire? Dumbledore said unexpectedly. You actually saw the Goblet of Fire? What's the Goblet of Fire, sir? Harry asked curiously. A powerful magical item, Dumbledore hesitated to explain. I believe you will know soon enough. Professor Trelawney pondered for a moment. Did you only see the Goblet of Fire? I also saw a paw, Aaron said, raising Abe's right paw with some embarrassment. That? Trelawney blinked in confusion and then opened her mouth in disbelief. I can only say that, Mr. Gaius. You have a magical pet, and its role is very important. Aaron, that's it? Harry, Hermione, and the professors nodded subconsciously. There was no doubt about this, and Abe was indeed the most mysterious end of the dragon. Chapter 314, Cat and Mouse Ravenclaw Seeker. After the Chinese New Year, a new semester began, and students returned to Hogwarts one after another. The news that Harry had received the firebolt spread quickly. Gryffindor team captain Oliver Wood was ecstatic, and the rest of the team members were equally thrilled. The firebolt is a world-class broomstick, far superior to all the Nimbus 2001s of the Slytherin team combined. Harry was already an excellent seeker, and with this broomstick, it seemed almost impossible for him to lose. Professor Lupin was also teaching Harry the Patronus charm to ward off Dementors, which reassured the team completely. Wood seized the opportunity and increased the number of training sessions to 5 times a week. Despite the intensity, none of the team members complained. Instead, they cooperated enthusiastically. Gryffindor had not won the Quidditch Cup for 7 consecutive years, and with Wood graduating this year, his only wish was to lead the team to victory before he left. In the library, Aaron was working on the design drawings for a secret base. Hermione, looking more anxious than usual, placed a pile of books on the desk. Tsk, tsk, tsk. Aaron glanced at the books. Arithmetic divination charts, rune dictionaries, diagrams for muggles moving heavy objects. Your determination is impressive. It's been a semester and you still haven't given up. Stop it. I feel a lot of pressure right now, but I really can't bear to give up these classes. Why aren't you tired? Hermione asked, clearly stressed. Maybe because I gave up arithmetic divination, Aaron joked. Liar, you're also taking several courses at the same time, but you don't seem as stressed as I am, Hermione said suspiciously. In her elective classes, Hermione was racing against time, dragging her tired body to attend lectures, take notes, and then face a mountain of homework. Yet, Aaron seemed particularly relaxed. Not only did he not show the slightest fatigue, but he also had free time to spare. This is the difference between a top student and a top student, Aaron said, pointing to his head. I can remember more things than you think. What about homework? How did you manage to write so much? Hermione inquired. Of course, it was written by hand. I even thought about writing with my feet, but that was a bit more difficult, Aaron replied with a grin. Hermione rolled her eyes. You're so funny. I thought you were praising me, Aaron said, slightly embarrassed. Yes, I'm complimenting you, Hermione said impatiently, pushing a pile of notes in front of him. Check these for me and see if there's anything that needs to be added. Aaron's smile faltered. Are you really asking me to do this? Are you ashamed to help a friend? Hermione retorted. If you don't help me, no one will. Aaron sighed, feeling a bit cornered. Okay, but you can't just rely on me. What about Harry and Ron? Shouldn't they help too? Harry is busy practicing the Patronus charm, Hermione explained. How is he doing? Aaron asked curiously. He's struggling, Hermione admitted. The Patronus charm is very advanced magic. It took Harry a month to summon only a vague Patronus. At least he won't faint in front of a Dementor now. That's not enough, Aaron frowned. There are at least 100 Dementors outside Hogwarts. True, Hermione sighed. But it's quite remarkable for a third-year wizard to achieve this. At least there won't be any accidents on the Quidditch field. Fine, but what about Ron? He might not be great at homework, but he can at least check it, right? Don't mention him, Hermione said indignantly. His pet rat, Scabbers, is missing. Aaron, it's very satisfying, he said without thinking. However, he noticed Hermione's red eyes and quickly placed Abe on the desk. Abe wanted to kill Scabbers the first time he saw him. Abe nodded affirmatively. It really didn't like the mouse. Seeing this, Hermione felt a little better and continued. Ron suspects that Crookshanks ate his rat, and it's simply unreasonable. Crookshanks is a cat after all, Aaron said with a smile. It's perfectly normal for a cat to catch a mouse. You think it's Crookshanks too? Hermione's eyes showed a trace of unkindness and the heartache of being distrusted. Gollum. Aaron swallowed and immediately changed his words. I have always hated this kind of random speculation about suspects without evidence. Crookshanks may have some hostility towards Scabbers, but since no one saw it, it probably wasn't him. Actually, a few orange cat hairs were found on the floor of Ron's dormitory, Hermione said weakly. Aaron sighed internally. What is the difference between you and talking nonsense with your eyes open? Maybe you don't want to hear it, but if you have time, get a new ration for Crookshanks. No, a new mouse for Ron. Hermione pursed her lips and lowered her head, aggrieved to sort out her homework. Well, I'm unlucky, Aaron muttered, patting his forehead and taking out Captain Jack's compass. What is this? Hermione asked, curious. A magical compass. It can point to what you think in your heart, Aaron said seriously, then stared at the pointer of the compass. The pointer, which was originally stationary, began to rotate slowly without any intention of stopping. This is? Hermione asked, puzzled. This is good news, Aaron smiled. Scabbers is still alive, and the compass points to its location. Do you want to find it? Hermione hesitated for a moment, then shook her head coldly. No, Scabbers will come back if nothing happens. I'll wait for Ron to apologize to me in Crookshanks. Aaron blinked, trying to laugh but couldn't. Wait, Hermione suddenly thought of something. This compass should also be able to find the location of Sirius Black, if he can be caught. Snap! Without saying a word, Aaron closed the cover of the compass and stuffed it into Abe's pocket. Aaron, am I wrong? Hermione asked, puzzled. True, but I don't want to make trouble. Trouble? How can this be trouble? Of course it's troublesome, Aaron sighed deeply. Sirius is not important, but the person behind him is Voldemort. Although he has not been fully resurrected now, it cannot be denied that he has a large number of loyal followers. I've offended Voldemort to death, but he's no threat to me now, nor are his followers. What do you mean? Hermione asked, confused. If they knew that I sent Voldemort's loyal servants to Azkaban, they might seek revenge on me. There is no shortage of desperados in that group. Then if you give the compass to Dumbledore? Impossible. There is absolutely no such possibility, Aaron said firmly. It would be a little risky for him to catch Sirius Black, but with his current strength, this risk could be ignored. However, if the compass was handed over to Dumbledore, the risk would not be so great. He never really trusted the character of this wizard who had been on the White Devil's throne for decades. I hope the Dementors can be more powerful, otherwise Harry may have to stay in the castle for a long time. But at least it's safe, Hermione conceded. Saturday, 11 o'clock. Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw at the Quidditch pitch. Harry Potter made a high-profile appearance riding a firebolt. To prevent Dementors, he hid his wand in his sleeve so that he could use the Patronus charm at any time. There was nothing he could do about it. After all, the Dementors had left him with too much of a shadow. Even with Dumbledore at the scene, he felt a little guilty. The firebolt was very fast and had an absolute speed advantage in the game. From time to time, the commentator Jordan inserted a few words about the background of the firebolt. The speed, performance, and sense of balance were all excellent. If they didn't know him well, they might have thought he was advertising. They would really suspect that Jordan was paid to advertise for the firebolt. Has Ravenclaw changed their seeker? Aaron asked curiously, eyeing the only girl on the Ravenclaw team. Her name is Cho-Chan. Gee, Ron replied. Wood said she's a very good seeker, but her broom is terrible. The Comet series can't compare to the firebolt. Indeed, the firebolt is much faster than my magic carpet, Aaron said nonchalantly. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. Don't you think Cho-Chang is very beautiful? Maybe, Hermione said, blushing slightly, her voice trembling. Humph, Ron snorted. At least she looks much better than some people. Ron, don't be so rude, Hermione chided. Am I wrong? Ron retorted. You two, Aaron interrupted. Don't get me wrong. I meant that Harry Potter thinks she's pretty. Didn't you notice? Harry was overtaken by Cho-Chang several times in a row. His firebolt is much faster than a comet, yet he kept getting stopped when chasing the snitch. Hearing this, they quickly turned their eyes to the Quidditch pitch. It was true. Gryffindor and Ravenclaw were neck and neck, but the firebolt, which they considered their trump card, was repeatedly overtaken by the comet broom and even forced to change direction. The firebolt isn't cursed, is it? Hermione asked uneasily. Harry has flown it many times without any issues, Ron said, though his face looked a bit strained. It's so despicable. Ravenclaw sent out a beautiful seeker, knowing they couldn't match the firebolt's speed. We need to warn Wood, or Gryffindor might lose. Idiot, Aaron rolled his eyes. He had only meant to suggest that Harry might be interested in Cho-Chang. How did it turn into a conspiracy in Ron's mind? You're really self-righteous, Hermione said with some disgust. Harry wouldn't be so easily distracted. Just as Ron was about to retort, they heard Ms. Hooch's whistle, followed by Jordan's excited commentary. Harry Potter caught the golden snitch. Gryffindor wins. Chapter 315. Pettigrew Peter is not dead? Congratulations, Aaron said, looking at the excited Harry. But next, you're going to face Slytherin, so you'd better be mentally prepared. Harry froze for a moment, the joy of victory fading slightly. You don't want to be a seeker again, do you? No, I'm not that free, Aaron shrugged. This is just a simple reminder. That's good, Harry breathed a sigh of relief. If the opponent was Draco, he was confident he could get the snitch. But if it was Aaron, even with the firebolt, he was only half sure. This was the last game of the Quidditch season and their graduation gift to Captain Wood, who absolutely couldn't afford to lose. "Harry, may I ask?" Ron coughed. "Are you interested in Ravenclaw's Seeker?" Hearing this, Harry's face immediately flushed red. I am not. Don't talk nonsense." Seeing Harry's flushed face, Ron got the answer instantly. "Don't be shy. I promise not to tell anyone." "I didn't," Harry said awkwardly. "Wood and the others are preparing for a party in the common room, so I'm leaving first." As for, Ron looked at Harry's back and smiled. "What do you think?" "Oh," Ron sighed in embarrassment. "Say, should I tell Ginny that Harry has someone he likes?" "My past experience tells me not to meddle in my own business," Aaron shrugged and took Abe away. "I think so too." Hermione rolled her eyes at him and went to the library with a pile of books. The next day, Hogwarts was under martial law again, and security measures were tightened everywhere. Aaron looked at Harry, Ron, and Hermione in the auditorium and asked speechlessly, "I heard that something happened in your common room again." Big. Ron raised his neck proudly. "I found Sirius Black while I was sleeping last night. He pointed a knife at me." "You?" Aaron was skeptical. Sirius took the knife, and instead of killing Harry Potter, he found Ron Weasley instead. "This is really a joke in the world." "But it's true," Harry said. "He must have found the wrong person, and fortunately, Ron woke up in time. Otherwise, no, it might not be just me. Several people in our dormitory might all die." Ron said proudly. "I screamed, and he ran away in fright." "Wait, that's not right!" Just as Aaron was about to say something, an owl flew into the auditorium and landed steadily in front of Neville Longbottom. It was a red envelope, a howler. When Neville saw it, he reacted like Scabbers seeing Crookshanks, bursting out with astonishing escape speed. But before he ran out of the auditorium, his grandma's growling voice came from the letter, screaming and condemning at the same time, breaking Neville's fragile heart. "What did he do?" Aaron asked. "Gryffindor's password was leaked," Hermione said helplessly. "He was worried that he wouldn't be able to remember the password, so he wrote all the passwords on a piece of paper, and then this piece of paper." "Lost it?" Aaron's eyes twitched slightly. "It just happened to fall into the hands of Sirius Black?" The three looked at each other and nodded in unison. "Beautiful. That's the only thing he can do. But why didn't he kill you?" Aaron asked with some doubts. Access to the Gryffindor common room was an unprecedented opportunity for Sirius Black, and there would be no second chance like this. But he was looking for Ron, and he ran away hastily after being discovered. You must know that Harry's bed was only a few meters away from Ron's bed, and he could have killed someone before running away. "Maybe he was worried about wasting time," Harry said thoughtfully. "After all, there are too many people in the Gryffindor common room. He can kill us, but not everyone. If he attracts the professor, he will die." Aaron nodded silently, then looked at Harry seriously. "I'll give you a piece of advice. Don't leave Hogwarts." "I see. I'll keep an eye on him," Hermione assured. "Until Black is caught, he won't be allowed to go to Hogsmeade." Sirius Black also seemed to. Knowing that he wouldn't have another chance soon, he decided not to continue his actions. With his disappearance, Hogwarts quickly restored order, though security measures were significantly heightened. Notably, trolls were now guarding the entrance to the Gryffindor common room. That night, Harry was flipping through the Marauders map in bed when a name caught his attention: Pettigrew Peter. The name triggered memories of what he had overheard at the Three Broomsticks. Without hesitation, he put on his shoes and ventured into the dark corridors. Despite following the map, he couldn't find Peter Pettigrew. Just as he began to doubt the map's accuracy, Snape appeared behind him. "Potter, what are you doing wandering the corridors at night?" Snape demanded. "I'm sleepwalking," Harry replied casually. "Why do you look so much like your father, Potter?" "He was also defiant and arrogant, wandering around the castle," Snape sneered. Harry's temper flared. He couldn't stand anyone speaking ill of his father. "My dad wasn't cocky, and neither am I. If you don't mind, please put down your wand." Snape's eyes narrowed as he lowered his wand, which had been casting a Lumos spell, and pointed it at the Marauders map in Harry's hand. "What is this?" "It's just a piece of parchment," Harry said nervously, hoping Snape wouldn't discover the map's secret. Snape was skeptical. No one would carry an old piece of parchment unless it had some special magical properties. "Reveal your secret," he commanded, tapping the parchment lightly with his wand. To Harry's relief, the writing that appeared was different from what he usually saw. There was no map, just a message. "Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs greet Professor Snape and advise him not to stick his big nose into other people's business." Snape's face turned red with anger. Just as he was about to punish Harry, Professor Lupin arrived and intervened. Lupin's eyes briefly widened in surprise when he saw the Marauders map, but he quickly composed himself. He explained to Snape that the map was merely a prank prop and managed to send him away. Afterward, Lupin took Harry to the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. He reprimanded Harry severely and confiscated the Marauders map, clearly recognizing its significance. However, before Harry left, Lupin mentioned that there was something unusual about the map. It showed the name of a dead person, Pettigrew Peter. In the divination classroom, Professor Trelawney had finished teaching palm reading. Each student now had a cloudy crystal ball in front of them. To broaden your mind, you must take a long-term view. The technique of crystal ball divination is to make your third eye clear, she instructed. Some students were confused, others were struggling to stay awake, and a few were earnestly peering into their crystal balls. Hermione and Aaron shared a desk. Hermione looked frustrated, while Aaron seemed confident. "Can you understand this?" Hermione asked in astonishment. "I can barely see something," Aaron replied calmly. "I have a talent for divination. Professor Trelawney personally identified it." Hermione's eyes twitched slightly. She couldn't see anything, but her pride wouldn't let her admit it. Seeing Ron snoring beside her and Harry fighting to keep his eyes open, her mood improved slightly. "See anything?" Professor Trelawney asked as she approached their desk. "Professor, you may not believe it, but I saw a mouse," Aaron said. "A mouse?" Ron suddenly woke up. "Did you see Scabbers? Is he still alive?" "Of course he's still alive," Hermione said angrily. "It's not easy to survive under the claws of that ugly and cruel cat." Hermione's expression became indescribable as she shot Ron a hard look before turning away. "Aaron, where is Scabbers?" Ron asked eagerly. "How should I know?" Aaron replied, exasperated. "Besides, this is something in the future. It may not be happening right now." The class continued, but the tension between the friends lingered, each of them lost in their own thoughts about the mysterious events unfolding around them. "Quiet, Professor Trelawney interrupted, then looked at Aaron enthusiastically. "What else did you see?" "I've seen the reunion of a pet and its owner, and that's about it," Aaron replied. "Very good," Trelawney smiled with satisfaction. "With more practice, you can predict a more accurate future. Divination is the most mysterious magic. Your third eye will become clearer and clearer, and eventually, the world will have no secrets for you." Aaron nodded approvingly. He had been trying to divine his future just now, but a mouse had appeared out of nowhere, catching him off guard. This incident proved that his divination skills were still not fully developed. The mouse might have something to do with his future, but he couldn't be sure what it was. "Ahem," Hermione suddenly coughed. "Shouldn't someone apologize to Crookshanks? It has been wronged for too long." Ron's face changed slightly, and he said thoughtfully, "This only proves that Scabbers is not dead, but it doesn't mean that the cat didn't hurt him. Don't forget, Scabbers hasn't come back yet. He must be frightened by that cat." "You're really," Hermione laughed angrily, "unreasonable." "It's you who are unreasonable," Ron retorted, looking incredulous. "You didn't take care of that cat and always defended it." "Okay, you two, it's class time now," Professor Trelawney interrupted. "What did you see in the crystal ball?" "Do you need me to explain?" Chapter 316, Completion of Shenming Temple, Divination Exam. "We don't need help," Ron said indifferently, staring at the white mist in the crystal ball. "The sign is obvious. There will be heavy fog tonight." Professor Trelawney, slightly dissatisfied, sat directly in front of their desks and examined the crystal ball. After a moment, she looked up at Harry. "It's right here, and it's coming ominously towards you." "Oh my God, don't say it's ominous, okay? That's too ridiculous," Hermione said, a little exasperated. "Honey," Professor Trelawney said, grabbing Hermione's palm and examining the lines. She whispered, "From the moment you stepped into my classroom, I felt that you lacked the qualities required for divination. You are young, but your heart is withered, like an old soul. Your spirit is as dry as the paper of the books you labor over. As the words fell, Hermione's breathing became more rapid. She stood up abruptly and walked out of the classroom. She had had enough of the divination class and didn't want to waste any more time on it. "Did I say something wrong?" Trelawney asked, puzzled. "No," Aaron shook his head. "You just said what I wanted to say, but never did. Besides, Easter is coming soon. Your prophecy has been fulfilled. Hermione will leave us, but this is not a bad thing for her." For the next week, Hermione did not show up in the divination class. Even with one less elective, the remaining 4 courses were still overwhelming for her. In comparison, Aaron was much more relaxed. His avatar was a perfect tool for multitasking. In addition to the 4 elective courses, he also managed to attend more than half of the required courses through his body of thoughts. Although this delayed the secret room renovation plan a bit, it was harmless. After all, at this stage, he only went there to practice magic. The Quidditch final began on Saturday, with Gryffindor taking on Slytherin. With Slytherin leading in points, Gryffindor needed to be ahead by 50 points before catching the snitch to win the Quidditch Cup. The score gap between the two houses fluctuated around the 50-point mark. Finally, Harry seized the opportunity, relying on the speed of the firebolt, and caught the golden snitch just seconds after Gryffindor gained a 50-point lead. After 7 years, Gryffindor finally won the Quidditch Cup. Tears welled up in Wood's eyes. He felt he had no regrets about his graduation. The other team members hugged each other and roared in victory. The other Gryffindors were even crazier, rushing onto the field almost the moment Harry grabbed the snitch. Even Percy, usually very serious, jumped up and down excitedly. Professor McGonagall, holding many Gryffindor flags, wiped away tears of joy. The scene was comparable to a national celebration. "I lost," Aaron said, looking at the angry Draco. "Do you feel particularly unconvinced?" "It's not fair," Draco said, thumping the wall hard. "He's riding a firebolt, which is much faster than a nimbus. I was just a little short." "In a sense, this is fair," Aaron spread his hands. "In the past, Slytherin dominated with better equipment. Now the situation is reversed, and you can't accept it. Compared to Slytherin's decline, Gryffindor is thriving." Draco snorted softly. "Hundreds of people hugging and crying together, it's really not embarrassing." "When you get carried away, you can't be better than them," Aaron laughed. "They've been suppressed for 7 years. It's only natural for them to explode once." "But we lost our streak of 8 consecutive victories," Draco said with some regret. But then he thought of something, and his expression brightened. "They can only be happy now." "What do you mean?" Aaron asked. "Hagrid lost the case, and the Hippogriff was sentenced to death. It will be executed before the end of the term." Hearing this, Aaron frowned slightly and turned away. Harry, Hermione, Ron, and Rubus, Hagrid were surrounded by Gryffindors in the stadium. Aaron gave a word of advice. "Don't say this in front of them. Otherwise, you wet. I'll definitely get beaten. If you then go and complain to Mr. Malfoy, I won't be able to ignore it." "You wouldn't stand up for them because of this, would you?" someone asked. "What do you think?" Aaron rolled his eyes. "If you sprinkle salt on a wound, you deserve the beating." Okay, I get it. I promise not to provoke them." "Good." In the Slytherin common room, specifically in Gaius's Chamber of Secrets, Aaron soaked comfortably in a hot pool, a look of satisfaction on his face. Abe swam in the large pool, his dog-paddling dragon form struggling to stay afloat. "It's a good job," Aaron thought to himself. "In just a few months, the base has been transformed into a simple palace, complete with a hot spring pool. Truly impressive." "This is the charm of magic," a disembodied voice chuckled. "The combined use of water and fire attribute magic circles made this possible. But it's better to ask Jins to send some high-quality magic crystals. Otherwise, to run some functions of this base, we can only rely on our magic power supply. You can't expect me to be a large power bank." "I think so too," Aaron nodded slowly. "But with exam week coming soon, let's wait until next semester." "As it should be. Is there anything else you need?" "Indeed there is," the disembodied voice said, knocking on the armrest of the throne. "It still needs a name. Now that it's a palace, calling it a secret base or secret room is too vulgar. So I wanted to name it." "Shenming Palace," Aaron interjected. Although it might seem like plagiarism, the name is fitting, given the magic cast in this palace. The disembodied voice smiled. The main body always knows what the clone is thinking. Aaron shrugged and silently opened the task panel of the system. Help Harry Potter find the enemy who killed his parents. Reward 500 magic points for completing the task. Accepted. Ah! Aaron sighed slightly. Although the rewards were modest, every little bit helps. He had been diligently signing in for half a year and had already accumulated 10,000 magic points. Completing this task and persisting for another month would allow him to buy the Nigia mask. With it, he could control a ninja corps with full loyalty and no fear of pain or death. The thought made his heart race. Exams started on Monday and ended on Saturday. This was not a problem for Aaron. Exams were easy as long as you had the skills. He passed the required courses, such as Transfiguration, Potions, Defense Against the Dark Arts, History of Magic, and Herbology with full marks. However, there was a slight hiccup in the elective courses. He had no problem with Care of Magical Creatures, Muggle Studies, and Ancient Runes, but Divination required more attention. Professor Trelawney called the students into her office one by one, asking them to observe the crystal ball and perform divination based on seeing the future through the fog. Everyone who came out behaved mysteriously and refused to reveal any of the test content. Aaron stood on the landing, silently practicing the taboo magic circle that only holy magisters could use. The power of elements induced by this magic was 10 times stronger than the ultimate magic circle, but Wayheta had not taught him yet. It was estimated that he would have the opportunity to learn it after the holiday. Harry and Ron stood in front of him, tension and concern on their faces. I suddenly feel that Hermione is right. She is an old fraud, Ron said disdainfully. Harry nodded in agreement. It doesn't matter whether you are a master or a novice. You treat the courses you don't like the same way, Aaron shook his head. I think, Professor, Trelawney has some real talents, but you just can't see it, Hermione insisted. Easy for you to say, Ron retorted, rolling his eyes. We don't have your qualifications. According to her, half of our third eye is blind, and the other half is shrouded in thick fog. I agree, Harry said seriously. If her divination is that accurate, she should just give us grades based on her predictions. Why bother with the rest? Aaron's mouth twitched in disbelief. You really think we should be graded by divination? Ron Weasley, Professor Trelawney's voice called from the top of the building. With a resigned expression, Ron climbed the silver ladder. He returned after more than 20 minutes, giving Harry a bewildered look. I have no idea what I just said. Harry Potter, Trelawney called next. See you in the common room, Harry said, taking a deep breath before climbing the ladder. Aaron was the last one. As he waited, he suddenly heard Professor Trelawney's voice from upstairs, but it was hoarser and harsher than usual. Tonight he will return. The man who betrayed his friend, the man who became a murderer, will break free from his chains. The blood of the innocent will be shed. The Dark Lord will return with the help of his servants, stronger and more terrifying than ever. Aaron quickly closed his notebook and hurried up the silver ladder. When he entered the room, he saw Professor Trelawney rubbing her throat. Harry stood beside her, his face pale and bloodless. Aaron looked at Harry, who shook his head slightly, causing Aaron's heart to sink. Most of Trelawney's predictions made in an unconscious state were often quite accurate. Gaius, I don't recall asking you to come up, Professor Trelawney said, frowning in confusion. But never mind, it's your turn. Okay, boy, come here. Trelawney sighed at Harry. I'm a little disappointed, but I believe you tried your best. Harry walked out in a daze. As he passed Aaron, he paused slightly. Did you hear that too? Aaron nodded, hesitating. Actually, divination isn't always accurate. Chapter 317, Execution of Buckbeak. Who said I couldn't save it? Aaron took a deep breath, suppressing the shock in his heart, and walked up to Professor Trelawney. Go ahead, let me see what you can see, Professor Trelawney said with great interest. Aaron focused his attention on the crystal ball, pushing away the layers of fog. After a while, he came back to his senses, his face becoming particularly strange. Professor, I seem to see a weak patient. Patient? What kind of patient? She inquired. He was in the dark. I couldn't see what he looked like, but I could feel that it was not an ordinary weakness. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to describe it as lingering. Professor Trelawney froze for a moment, then looked at Aaron with surprised eyes. Gaius, you have the aptitude for divination, but it will take some time to make accurate predictions. My celestial eye tells me that there is nothing wrong with your prophecy, but there are some differences from what you want. Aaron scratched his head in embarrassment. He had wanted to know where the murderer of Harry's parents, Sirius Black, was, but he didn't expect such a picture to appear. I'll practice more, Professor. Practice is a must, Professor Trelawney said suddenly, but more importantly is the method. I suggest you start with some small things and don't aim too high. Aaron was silent for a moment, then nodded heavily. Professor Trelawney showed a satisfied smile and then took out her scorebook. Your grades are the best among the third graders. Aaron waved his hand in embarrassment and walked out of the classroom on his own. He might have cared about the results of divination before, but now he cared more about Professor Trelawney's predictions. If Voldemort was really going to make a comeback, then he had to be prepared. During Voldemort's heyday, he was at the peak of the Great Wizard, and he was only half a step away from the Holy Land. With his current strength, he might be a bit reluctant to fight against the Dark Lord in his prime. In addition to becoming stronger, he still had to find a way to add 1 or 2 more trump cards. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to sleep well. But after thinking about it, Aaron realized that he didn't seem to need to worry too much. After all, there was a particularly bright shield in front of him. As long as Harry Potter survived, Voldemort would not target Harry Potter for a while, and Albus Dumbledore was still in good health. At worst, he could hide in Hogwarts and not go out. He didn't believe that Voldemort would dare to enter the school. When it was really a last resort, he could only lock himself at home. With the defensive power of Gaius Castle, not to mention Voldemort, even Salazar Slytherin couldn't do anything about him if he were resurrected. Thinking of this, Aaron was relieved. There was still some time before Voldemort's resurrection, and the sky was falling, and there was a tall man holding it up. As long as Dumbledore didn't die, Hogwarts was safe, and there was plenty of room for him to sign in. Gah! 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 At this time, the cry of a crow rang in his ears, followed by a particularly harsh sound, like a cat's paw scratching glass. Aaron followed the sound and walked over. A strong man in pure black clothes was polishing a huge blade with stones. Executioner? Aaron thought, frowning. Hagrid probably lost the lawsuit again, and it was a complete defeat. Buckbeak's execution day was estimated to be today. After hesitating for a few seconds, Aaron made a silent decision in his heart and led Abe towards the direction of the Forbidden Forest. When he came to Hagrid's hut, he knocked on the door several times before Hagrid opened it. Aaron, what are you doing here? Hagrid asked softly. Honestly, Buckbeak's life or death really doesn't matter to me, but, well, knowing me is simply a blessing you have cultivated in 8 lifetimes. I personally thought you might need a little help today, so here I am. Hearing this, Hagrid pursed his lips, trembling and choking. He just wanted to give Aaron a hug. Aaron reached out to hug Hagrid, but Hagrid stopped him with a hand. Don't come any closer. It's fine if you change into a cleaner suit, but this one is too sloppy, Aaron said with some disgust. He then looked at Hagrid and asked, How many times have you cried? I don't know, Hagrid replied, opening the window to look out at the hippogriff chained in the pumpkin patch. Buckbeak was sentenced to death, and even Dumbledore couldn't save him. Malfoy arranged for McNeil to come for the execution, and Fudge and representatives of the Hazardous Creatures Committee will be there. Aaron's mouth twitched slightly. Is it really necessary? It's just a magical animal, and even the Minister of Magic was invited to watch the execution. He just happened to be at Hogwarts to check on Black's situation, so he was pulled over as a witness, Hagrid said bitterly. You shouldn't stay here. This will be a nightmare for a young wizard like you. Aaron snorted. The idea of decapitating a magical animal might be nauseating to others, but to him, it was a minor spectacle. To be honest, the executioner might not have killed as many lives as he had. No, you have to leave, Hagrid insisted. Just as he was about to say more, there was a knock on the door. Aaron, worried that Hagrid would cry when he saw Fudge and the others, opened the door for him, but there was no one outside. Aaron frowned slightly, then sighed. Harry, Sirius hasn't been caught yet. Do you know how dangerous it is for you to come out of the castle at this time? I know, but I had to come, Harry said carefully. Let us in first. Us? Aaron suddenly felt a headache coming on. Hermione, you promised me you would watch Harry. Is this your idea of keeping that promise? I only promised not to let him go to Hogsmeade, Hermione said guiltily. I'm sorry, but Hagrid really needs comfort right now. Aaron rolled his eyes helplessly, stepped back, and let them in before closing the door. Why are you here? Hagrid asked, trembling. We're here to stay with you, Hagrid, Hermione said, her heart aching for him. No, you have to go back, Hagrid said firmly. Especially you, Harry. Dumbledore will come to spend that moment with me later. Besides him, Fudge will be here too. If they find you here, you'll be in big trouble. We have invisibility cloaks, Ron said. They won't find us. Take it off. Don't forget what happened last year. The invisibility cloak can hide you from Fudge, but can it also hide you from Dumbledore? That's right. You guys need to leave now. But before you go, Ron, take this with you. Hagrid opened a box and took out a mouse. Scabbers, you're still alive, Ron exclaimed, happily taking his pet, though it looked much thinner and had lost a lot of hair. Keep an eye on your pets, Ron. Looks like you owe me an apology, Hermione said softly. I'll apologize later, Aaron said, looking out the window. They're here. Dumbledore's beard gleamed in the setting sun as he approached, followed by the Minister of Magic, members of the Committee on the Treatment of Dangerous Creatures, and Executioner McNeil, who held a polished axe blade in his hand. Hurry up, Hagrid said anxiously. Don't let them find you here. Hurry up. Actually, I stayed because... Aaron began, but Hagrid pushed him towards the back door. Things are troublesome enough. I can't take you in anymore. Let's go, Hagrid insisted. Aaron sighed and led the others out through the back door. They walked towards the castle along the sloping lawn, stopping at a high point to watch from afar. They saw Hagrid and the others emerge from the hut. Dumbledore and Fudge were talking, but the executioner walked towards the pumpkin patch with his axe. Their view was blocked by a fence, but they could still hear a muffled sound and see groups of crows flying in all directions. Harry and Ron turned pale. Although they didn't see Buckbeak's head fall, they could imagine the scene. A sense of fear filled their hearts, and their stomachs churned with unease. Hermione stood silently, her face pale and her eyes filled with sorrow. Hermione leaned her head on Aaron's shoulder, her voice choked with tears. I can't believe it. They really did it. She pounded Aaron's chest in frustration. You could have saved him. If you had spoken up, Malfoy would have listened to you. Aaron sighed deeply. I understand how you feel, but some things are beyond my control, he said. There are countless unjust cases like Buckbeak's. I can't intervene in every single one just because I have some influence. It's not practical. Besides, who said I didn't try to save him? Hermione paused, her eyes widening in surprise. Just as she was about to ask more, Ron let out a yelp of pain. Ouch! Ron exclaimed, dropping his mouse. A small bite mark appeared on his right index finger, and bright red blood dripped from the wound. Banban bit me! The mouse Banban seemed terrified and scurried away quickly. Ron immediately chased after it, with Harry and Hermione following closely behind. They discarded their cloaks to run faster. Aaron glanced at the setting sun, sighed again, and followed them. He didn't want to get involved in this chaos, but Professor Trelawney's prophecy weighed heavily on his mind. He had to be there. Tonight, the man who betrayed his friend, the man who became a murderer, would break free from his chains, and the blood of the innocent would be shed. This was a prophecy Trelawney had made unconsciously, with an accuracy rate of 90%. It meant that Sirius Black would attack Harry Potter tonight. While Black might fail, there would be no significant loss, and he might even escape unscathed. As darkness approached, Aaron knew that guarding Harry Potter was a better strategy than wandering aimlessly with a compass. The castle was full of people, and someone might discover the secret of the compass, leading to complications. Dumbledore might even want to have a word with him. Chapter 3 and 18, The Evil Pet Devours the Lord, The Ominous True Identity. After Ron chased Scabbers for a while, he swooped down and caught the rat in his hand. The The three people chasing behind him stopped in their tracks, staring in a daze at a large tree behind Ron. "The Homping Willow," Aaron said with a forced smile. "If I remember correctly, that mouse is his pet, right? Bringing him under the Homping Willow is like leading him to his doom." "Ron, run!" Harry yelled hastily. The Homping Willow seemed to sense an intruder at the edge of its territory. Several branches began to dance slowly, ready to strike. Ron looked up instinctively at the sound of Harry's voice, but before he could fully grasp the situation, he pointed at the three of them in panic, his fingers twitching uncontrollably. "Run away. It's ominous," he stammered. The three turned around immediately, only to see a large black dog growling and staring at them with sharp eyes. "Harry," Aaron said with some disdain, "is this the ominous thing you saw?" "Scary, isn't it?" Harry said nervously. "I've seen it several times." Aaron curled his lips, drew out his wand, and stood in front of the two. "Leave the misfortune to me, and take care of that unlucky Ron." Before he could finish his sentence, the big black dog rushed at them with a growl. Aaron waved his wand, and several earthen walls rose from the ground, blocking the dog's path. But to his surprise, the black dog didn't intend to attack them. It quickly bypassed the first three walls, stepped on the fourth, and leaped towards Ron. It bit Ron's right leg, pulling him back and forth. "Harry!" Ron cried out miserably for help, but the strength of the big black dog was too great, and his struggle was futile. Harry ran after him quickly, but Aaron was faster. He grabbed Ron's arm in time to keep him from being dragged away. "I saved you once," Aaron said, then pointed his wand at the big black dog. "Petrificus totalis!" Boom! Harry bumped into Aaron, causing the petrification charm to miss. "What the—" Aaron's eyes widened in disbelief, never expecting Ron's best friend to stop him. Just as he was about to ask why, he heard the howling wind. A long willow branch lashed out at the spot where he had been standing, leaving a shallow gully on the ground. Seeing this, Aaron couldn't help but gasp. If the willow branch had hit someone, it would have torn skin and flesh apart. Even he would probably be hugging the wound and crying out in pain. The Homping Willow seemed to be annoyed. Several thick branches tightened like fists, and countless willows creaked in the strong wind, whipping back and forth like whips. Aaron immediately let go of Ron, narrowly dodging a few thick branches that were aimed at him. The big black dog suddenly exerted force and dragged Ron into a tree hole, leaving him only enough time to let out a scream. "Sorry, that was really not intentional," Aaron said awkwardly to Harry and Hermione, who had entered the range of the Homping Willow's attack. The situation had spiraled out of control. He had held a wand in one hand and grabbed Ron with the other, engaging in a tug-of-war with the big black dog. For the active Homping Willow, he was a living target with almost no mobility. In fact, he didn't need to let go, but then Ron would have become a defenseless target. If a few branches had hit him hard, he would have been permanently disabled at the very least. "Don't talk about that. We have to go in and save him," Harry gasped, jumping up and down, left and right, avoiding the oncoming branches. "We have to find someone to help," Hermione said anxiously. Her performance was even more embarrassing than Harry's, and her arm was bleeding. "No, there's no time. He'll be eaten by the time we come back." "But we can't get in at all," Hermione said, on the verge of tears. A branch swept her legs, knocking her to the ground, and then the huge tree crown came down like a fist. "Help, help!" Hermione yelled, lying on the ground, her heart filled with despair. If the canopy, where Hitch was bigger than her, hit, she would either die or be severely injured. Several gray stone pillars rose from the ground, enclosing Hermione inside and blocking the fist of the Homping Willow. Hermione opened her eyes nervously and looked blankly at the surrounding gray stone pillars. "Don't be so loud, I can hear you," Aaron said as he dug out his ears and helped Hermione up. "And me?" Harry called eagerly. "Hold on." Aaron took a deep breath and quickly rushed out of the circle of stone pillars. He dodged a few swinging branches, clenched his fist with his right hand, and a crimson flame became particularly conspicuous in the night. The iron fist of the fire dragon. Boom! Aaron punched the Homping Willow in the very center, and the flame shockwave instantly enveloped almost half of the tree. The Homping Willow seemed to fall into a sluggish state, motionless like an ordinary tree, but the green leaves on the tree fell almost instantly. You killed it? Harry asked in astonishment. Are you concerned about the wrong thing? Aaron said, exasperated. If we don't fix it, we'll be in trouble, and I acted appropriately. I didn't kill it. I just knocked it out. I don't want to cost the school money. Harry and Hermione looked at each other and swallowed together. This was the humping willow, subdued with one punch. It was unbelievable. But after the shock, there was infinite joy. With such a teammate, dealing with mere ominous threats shouldn't be a problem. We have to hurry up, Harry said, walking up to the trunk and sliding down the hole, followed by Aaron and Hermione. Luminescence flashes, Aaron said, and a white light glowed at the tip of his wand, illuminating the dark tunnel. This should be the secret passage on the Marauder's map. Harry, where does it lead? I don't know, Harry shook his head. George and Fred haven't come in either. It leads to the edge of the Marauder's map, so it should be Hogsmeade Village. Where's the map? Let me see. Professor Lupin confiscated it. Aaron sighed. You really let something so important get confiscated. The three of them walked quickly along the secret path, and after an unknown amount of time, they finally saw a glimmer of light. Passing through a trapdoor, they carefully emerged from the secret passage, and after not daring to make a sound. The exit was a messy room with tattered furniture, as if it had been ransacked by robbers. Aaron wiped the dust on the stairs and frowned slightly. No one has been here for a long time. It's normal, Hermione said, swallowing hard as she looked at the boarded-up windows. This is the Shrieking Shack, a well-known haunted house in Hogsmeade Village. Legend has it that it emits weird screams at night. Really? I don't think there's anything wrong here. Even if there is, we are wizards. Whoever cleans up is not sure. Hush! Harry made a silent gesture, then pointed to the top of the stairs. Listen. Ron's crying was heard upstairs. The three of them looked at each other before carefully walking up the stairs. There was an irregular trail in the thick dust, obviously caused by Ron being dragged by the black dog. They advanced lightly along the traces and reached the landing of the stairs. Hearing the sobbing sound from inside, Aaron frowned slightly. Wait, don't go in yet. Something seems wrong, Aaron said. It was ominous that the big black dog had spent so much effort to catch Ron, but listening to the sound, it didn't seem to have done anything to him. He was neither regarded as food nor as an enemy, as if he was thrown there as an irrelevant thing. I can't care that much anymore, Harry said, kicking open the dilapidated door. Aaron wanted to grab him, but before he had time, Hermione accidentally got in with him. Ron was sitting on a bed covered with curtains, holding his injured leg that was still bleeding, looking extremely embarrassed but unexpectedly not life-threatening. Ron, it's fine, Hermione breathed a sigh of relief. Where is that dog? He's the big dog. He's an animagus. N pointed bitterly. Harry, this is a trap. The two froze for a moment, then followed Ron's gaze. At the end of a row of plum blossom footprints stood a middle-aged man with messy hair, sunken eye sockets, and a gaunt frame. He looked as if he had escaped from a prisoner of war camp. It was Sirius Black, the man on the wanted list. Disarm, Sirius shouted, casting a disarming spell with Ron's wand. Harry and Hermione's wands were knocked from their hands, and Sirius calmly closed the door behind him. He grinned, revealing yellowed, blackened teeth. I expected you to come to your friend's rescue. Your father would have done the same for me. You are very brave for not running to the teacher, which makes this much easier. When Harry heard this, he thought it was a mockery of his father, who had once treated a friend like this, only to be betrayed and lose his life. He instinctively wanted to rush forward in desperation, but Ron and Hermione held him back tightly. No, Harry, no, Hermione said almost pleadingly. If you want to kill Harry, you'll have to kill us too, Ron said firmly. A bitter relief flashed in Sirius' eyes. He slowly shook his head and said, No, only one person will die tonight. Also, you'd better down, or your leg will hurt even more. Crunch! The door opened suddenly, and Aaron quickly cast a disarming spell. Expelliarmus! A white light flashed, and the wand in Sirius's hand was knocked away. Perhaps you are right. Only one person will die tonight, Aaron said calmly. He then walked up to the three of them. I told you all not to go in yet. Why don't you ever listen? Fortunately, I'm here. Otherwise, you would definitely be in trouble. Sorry, Hermione mumbled, lowering her head in embarrassment, not daring to meet Aaron's eyes. Just as Sirius was about to pick up his wand, Aaron pointed his own wand at him. Don't move. I haven't learned the killing curse, but I'm quite proficient with the Cruciatus curse. Trust me, you don't want to experience it. Chapter 319, The Glorious Moment of the Disarming Spell, the Unheard-of Desire to Survive. Aaron could hardly contain his joy as he looked at the bewildered Sirius Black. 500 magic points, just like that. Although it was a bit less than he had hoped for, it was enough to save him 2 months of struggle. He had never completed such a simple task with almost zero danger, and it could be done with a disarming spell. However, his joy was short-lived. His brows furrowed as the system didn't indicate that the task was completed. This meant he hadn't found the true enemy who killed Harry Potter's parents. Sirius Black, Aaron said seriously. Did you? Before Aaron could finish, Harry roared, You killed my parents, and rushed towards Sirius. No one expected Harry to attack Sirius in a muggle way. There shouldn't have been any suspense in a fight between a 14-year-old boy and a murderer who had been in prison for 12 years. Surprisingly, Sirius barely resisted. He was punched heavily and then pushed to the ground by Harry, who strangled his neck. Are you going to kill me, Harry? Sirius laughed, showing his yellow teeth. You killed my parents, Harry repeated, his eyes red with rage. You betrayed them to Voldemort. You have to listen to me, Sirius interrupted anxiously. Otherwise, you will regret it. You don't know. Harry tightened his grip on Sirius's neck. Hermione and Ron seemed at a loss, unsure whether to intervene. The hatred for his parents' killer was unshakable, but they didn't want Harry to become a murderer, even though Sirius had been sentenced to death. At that moment, Aaron kicked Harry on the shoulder, pushing him aside. Aaron, why are you? Ahem. Sirius barely stood up. I should thank you. You're welcome. Now disarm, Aaron said decisively, casting the disarming spell. The wand hidden behind Sirius's back flew out of his grasp. I almost let you get away with it, Harry realized. Sirius must have picked up the wand while Harry was choking him. If it wasn't for Aaron, Sirius would have cast a curse on him. Stay there, Aaron said, pointing his wand at Harry. Aaron, are you referring to the wrong person? Hermione and Ron asked in disbelief. I'm telling him to calm down, Aaron shrugged, then continued to point his wand at Sirius. I'll give you a chance to finish what you were saying. Finally, someone with sense, Sirius sighed in relief. What else? Harry's voice trembled, tears streaming down his face. If you can't do it, let me. He betrayed my parents, and before my mother died, he also stopped Voldemort from killing me. This is my last chance, a chance to take revenge with my own hands. Maybe Draco is right. I can't give him up to the Dementors. Harry, actually James and Lily, Sirius began. Shut up, Harry cursed angrily. You have no right to mention their names. Shut up, Aaron said tiredly, looking at Harry. Let him finish. But, no buts. You should trust me, and you must trust me. So after listening to what he has to say, I will pretend not to see you wanting to kill or shave afterward. Thank you, Sirius sighed. I wanted to explain it to others after I killed him. There is too much misunderstanding in this. Get to the point, Aaron pressed, his wand shaking with his wrist. Our time is precious, isn't it? What I said is the point, Sirius said helplessly. At that moment, the door slammed open, and Professor Lupin rushed in. Disarm, he shouted, and Aaron's wand flew out of his hand, landing firmly in Lupin's grasp. Aaron thought to himself, I used to think that villains died because they talked too much, but I didn't expect the decent ones to do the same. Lupin walked to the middle of the room, pointing his wand at Sirius. Okay, Black, you've become such a mess, and this appearance finally matches the madness inside you. You're just as crazy inside, aren't you, Limos? Lupin slowly lowered his wand and gave Sirius a big hug. I found him, Sirius said incoherently. Here he is. I know. Lupin patted him on the back reassuringly. Sirius's voice choked up. Kill him. No, Hermione screamed suddenly. I trusted you so much, and you've been Black's friend all along. Calm down, Hermione. This is normal. Aaron hurriedly pulled her back. They are about the same age, and also went to Hogwarts. You don't understand, Aaron, Hermione said angrily. He's a werewolf. That's why he can't come to class. It was the castle he helped Black sneak into, and he wants Harry dead too. That, Aaron hesitated. I don't deny the first part. I also know that he is a werewolf, and many people know, including Professor Snape and Dumbledore. In fact, the potion that Professor Snape gave him was Wolfsbane potion. But the second part is really questionable. Professor Lupin and Harry have spent too much time together alone. There were countless opportunities to kill him, especially when teaching him the Patronus charm. But Harry is still alive and well, which is enough to explain the situation. How long have you known? Lupin's voice was strained, and his face was pale. Since writing the article assigned by Snape, Hermione whispered. I might have known a little earlier, Aaron shrugged. On the train, my pet told me you had a beast inside you. To be honest, at that time, I wanted to secretly change to a private room while you were sleeping, but when I stood up, I was pushed back by 3 unlucky things. Aaron glanced at Harry, Ron, and Hermione as he spoke. The 3 Gryffindors all lowered their heads in guilt, feeling so embarrassed they could dig a hole in the ground. They were ignorant at the time, and anyone who knew there was a werewolf in the private room would feel restless. Actually, I wasn't so sure until the boggart turned into the moon right in front of you. The characteristics of this werewolf are too obvious. It's a pity you are in Slytherin. Lupin smiled weakly. I don't think so, Aaron replied nonchalantly. Slytherins respect the strong, and I did pretty well in that house. On the contrary, Gryffindor would have a headache because there are at least 3 classmates who have never made people worry. The 3 of Harry. Okay, I don't deny that I'm a werewolf, but I really didn't want to hurt Harry. But how do you explain what you just said? Harry roared. I'm afraid your relationship with Black isn't so good. That was before, and it wasn't before. No. Lupin was a little speechless. In short, it's quite complicated to explain, but I can explain it to you. Lupin picked up the wands on the ground and handed them back to their owners. Now you can trust me. Okay, Aaron nodded, moved a chair for himself, and made a gesture of invitation. Please start your explanation. Aaron, Harry wanted to say more, but Aaron stopped him with a look. Harry, I know you want revenge, but it's not too late to wait 12 years. Yeah, 12 years, I waited for 12 years, Sirius said with some self-mockery, then his tone became severe. In Azkaban. Don't wait, Limos. Kill him now. Harry has the right to know the truth, Lupin said patiently, then turned to Harry and the others. I participated in creating the Marauders map, and Mooney was my nickname in school. James, Harry's father, was Prongs, and I'm good friends with him, as is Sirius, who is Padfoot. He's not, Harry growled eagerly. He betrayed my parents. Someone did betray your parents, but it wasn't Sirius, and I only recently learned that the man was not dead. Who is that person? Harry asked. Peter Pettigrew, Lupin said, looking at Harry. You told me his name appeared on the Marauders map. The map lied. Peter Pettigrew died 12 years ago. No, Harry, Lupin said firmly. Peter Pettigrew is alive. The map never lies. Pettigrew is the 4th person who made the map, Wormtail. I've felt something was wrong since then, especially tonight when I found his name again while looking at the map after you guys left Hagrid's hut. But there are only 4 of us. Where did Peter Pettigrew come from? Ron asked, confused, scion evident in his voice. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a realization dawned on him, and his face lit up with excitement. He stood up abruptly, pulling Harry and Hermione with him, taking a big step away from the wall and distancing themselves from Ron. What is this for? Hermione asked, puzzled. Talent! Aaron exclaimed, looking at Ron. No, you can't just call it talent anymore. This is simply extraordinary. Ron was taken aback. Are you complimenting me or insulting me? Don't get me wrong, Aaron clarified. I'm not talking about you, but the mouse in your hand. Scabbers? Ron asked, holding up his pet mouse. Aaron nodded seriously. From my birth until now, I have rarely admired anyone, but your mouse is one of them. Harry and Hermione still looked confused, but Lupin seemed to understand. You see it too? He asked Aaron. Actually, I should have realized it long ago, but I just hadn't thought about it. Pettigrew Peter is an animagus, and the animal he can transform into is a mouse, Aaron explained, his expression one of disbelief. Peter Pettigrew is definitely a role model for my generation. I am ashamed I didn't see it sooner. Impossible, Ron shook his head in disbelief. Scabbers has been with my family for 12 years, Sirius interjected. But can an ordinary mouse live 12 years? Exactly, Aaron said, admiringly looking at Ron holding Scabbers. A mouse like this typically lives for 3 or 4 years at most. To survive for 12 years. To live peacefully as a mouse for 12 years shows an incredible will to survive. Even if you refuse to accept it, you have to admire it. Chapter 320. Unregistered animagus, enough to make a table of mahjong. This is ridiculous, Hermione said, frowning slightly. No one can do this. That's why I admire him, Aaron sighed. In order to survive, he gave up his human dignity and was willing to live as a beast. Fortunately, Ron, you are a man. If you were a woman and had lived with him for 12 years, you might have even thought of hanging yourself. But such a pervert, I don't know if he cares about the gender of his master. The corners of Ron's eyes twitched slightly. For some reason, he felt that everyone was looking at him with a bit more pity. Impossible. You must have made a mistake, Ron said, trying to remain calm. Maybe Scabbers has some special blood so he can live longer. There are so many mice in the world. Why do you think it's him? That's right, Hermione nodded firmly. The Ministry of Magic has records of wizards who can transform into animals. Including Professor McGonagall, there are only 7 animagi in this century. Ha! Aaron sneered. If I'm not mistaken, you probably didn't find Sirius Black's name among the 7, did you? Ah! Hermione was momentarily speechless. It seems I am right, Aaron said, spreading his hands. It's not the Ministry of Magic's decision not to register the animagus, but the animagus wizard himself, like Sirius Black. This also answers another question, why Sirius could sneak into the castle multiple times. Dementors don't perceive the emotions of animals, they only care about Sirius Black, not his animagus form. That's what I did, Sirius Black said, watching Scabbers struggle to escape. Can I kill it? Not yet, Lupin shook his head. We have to explain. It's not too late to explain later, Black growled, grabbing Scabbers. The rat seemed to sense the great danger, screaming and scratching Ron's cheeks and neck, even biting him. But Ron cherished his pet and didn't let go despite its frantic movements. Stop it, Lupin said, pulling Black back with difficulty. Ron has kept it as a pet for 12 years, and there are some things even I don't quite understand. If you kill him now, the truth will no longer be complete, and it wouldn't be fair to Harry. Okay, Sirius looked at Scabbers in Ron's hand, a flash of painful struggle in his eyes. But hurry up, I just want to kill him now. I can only say what I know, but you have to explain the part I don't know. Squeak. The door suddenly opened, and everyone looked over subconsciously. This place isn't really haunted, Ron said anxiously. Absolutely impossible, said Lupin. The Shrieking Shack has never been haunted. I was the one who made the screams that the villagers of Hogsmeade heard. When transforming into a wolf, Aaron looked at him in surprise. Isn't there a wolfsbane potion? I was bitten when I was very young, before there was wolfsbane potion. Before the invention of the potion, I would turn into a horrible monster every full moon. If Dumbledore hadn't become the headmaster, I wouldn't even have had the chance to go to school. The Shrieking Shack, the secret passage, and the Humping Willow were all specially prepared for me, so that no one would encounter me during the dangerous period. Ha! It seems that our old headmaster is really kind, Aaron said sarcastically. But we are here to learn the truth, not to listen to your story. But some things have to start from the beginning. Come on, Remus, Sirius said impatiently. Because of my status as a werewolf, I would disappear several times a month, and my 3 good friends noticed over time. Instead of alienating me like everyone else, they learned to become animagi to be with me when I transformed. That was the happiest time of my life. So my dad was also an animagus? Harry asked in surprise. That's right, unregistered, Lupin nodded. Werewolves are only dangerous to people. They accompanied me as animals. Prongs was a deer, Padfoot a dog, and Wormtail. Deer and dogs can control werewolves. We can move at night, figure out Hogwarts by, end Hogsmeade, draw a Marauder's map, and sign our own nicknames. You are so self-righteous, Aaron said, exasperated. You 3 don't have to worry about werewolves, but what about the others? I was young and ignorant at that time, Lupin said awkwardly. It's fortunate that there were no accidents, otherwise I would never feel at ease. This school year, I've been struggling with my thoughts. No one knows how Sirius managed to sneak into Hogwarts, but I do, animagus. I didn't dare tell Dumbledore because it would mean betraying his trust. I've always felt guilty about that. Then you really deserve it, Professor Lupin, Aaron said, curling his lips. Based on what I know about Dumbledore, if you told the truth, he would probably turn a blind eye and add an insurance policy for you. Aaron, Hermione swallowed. Did you just call Dumbledore an old bastard? The others looked at him in astonishment. Even Ban stopped struggling. You heard me wrong. I never said that Dumbledore is an old bastard, Aaron said calmly. As long as I'm not embarrassed, it's someone else who is. The crowd. Our headmaster, the great Dumbledore, was partial to Gryffindor. But Professor Lupin, you are so cowardly in some respects that you dare not say anything. Maybe, Lupin laughed self-deprecatingly. In a sense, Professor Snape is right about me. I don't deserve Dumbledore's trust. What does it matter to him? Sirius asked contemptuously. Severus Snape is the potions professor and the head of Slytherin House, Aaron said with a smile. It seems you don't have a good relationship with him, but he is my favorite teacher, so when I go back, I will tell him how embarrassing you are now and let him be happy. You. Don't move. Aaron pointed his wand at Sirius immediately. Until your identity as a murderer is clarified, you'd better be honest. Sirius, Lupin gave him a warning look. Aaron Gaius is Snape's favorite student. So what? When he was in school, he used to sneak around trying to find out what we were doing, wishing we were expelled. Honestly, he is the same now, but the word sneaky is a bit inappropriate. Yes, he's looking for trouble with us openly, Ron said confidently. You're ashamed to say it, Aaron rolled his eyes. If you have no problem, he won't hold you back. Perhaps so, said Lupin, but he doesn't just generally dislike James. Harry froze for a moment, understanding why he was targeted in potions class. The father's debt is paid by the son, but it's too damn wrong. But Dumbledore told me that my father saved his life. That's just the result. Lupin hesitated, but looked into Harry's green eyes. I don't think he told you what happened. Harry and his friends exchanged glances, sensing that the story wasn't friendly to Snape. Back then, just for fun, Sirius told Snape to use the humping willow method, pounding the knots on the trunk to quiet it down. Snape tried it, discovered the secret passage, and then came across me, a feral werewolf. James risked his life to drag him back in time. It's really not wrong to imprison you for 12 years, Aaron looked at Sirius. Just for fun, you tricked your classmate into facing a werewolf. Should I say you were young and ignorant? Or should I say you were cruel? Sirius. I just wanted to scare him, nothing else. Pull it down. If there had been an accident, a talented wizard and master of potions would have died young. Professor Snape doesn't like you because of this? Harry suddenly asked. Snape asked, he thinks you were also involved in that prank? That's right, Snape replied, removing his invisibility cloak and appearing behind Lupin. His sudden appearance left Harry, Ron, and Hermione stunned. Aaron's mouth twitched in surprise, and Sirius Black took a step back in astonishment. No wonder that door opened suddenly, Aaron said, patting his forehead. It means that Abe wasn't there. Otherwise, Snape under the invisibility cloak would have definitely been found. Expelliarmus! Snape cast the disarming charm, knocking Lupin's wand out of his hand. He then pointed his wand at Sirius Black. Revenge is such a pleasure. I caught you with my own hands, just as I wished. Aaron, feeling overwhelmed, thought to himself, System, is it too late for me to give up this task now? Although it's not very dangerous, it's too complicated. This is enough to make a mahjong table. He was truly exhausted. Sorting out the grievances and conflicts from 10 or 20 years ago was draining his mental energy. The system responded, accepted tasks can be abandoned. That's really, Aaron began, but the system interrupted. However, double the mission rewards will be deducted. May I ask if the host wants to give up? Before he could say, all right, Aaron was hit with the realization of the double, liquidated damages. Cough! Cough! Don't give up, of course. Don't give up. I am a person who likes to start and finish things, Aaron said, wanting to cry, but having no tears. Despite the trouble, he had to continue to avoid falling behind.